hit subscribe. Subscribe to my guy, Uncle D. Tell him Big Bass sent you.
Dennis Sterling. I'm an attorney here in Houston, Texas, an advocate for black men, largely because I am a black man. I'm a black father. I have black sons. Hey, man, I do what I do.
What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome everybody. Welcome to the broadcast. Shout out to everybody's here. I'm just getting myself together. As you guys know, my name is Dennis Sperling, and I'm happy to be here. I want to give a big shout out to everybody who's joined the membership. Make sure you join the membership if you hadn't already. Big shout out to all the people who are chiming in from around the country, around the world. I certainly do appreciate the time you all spend hanging out with me when I give these lessons. I try to make them as interesting as possible. It is quite fulfilling for me to do this. I'm excited every time I get a chance to develop a new idea. I try to hit things from different angles. And I promise you this week is going to be fun, okay? As fun as it can be. As fun as we can make the commentary on current events. But I just want to thank you all for allowing me to both educate you and entertain you at the same time. And that being the case, if you learn something, I should earn something. Now, that doesn't mean I have to. You don't owe me a dime. Nobody owes me anything. I do this because I enjoy it. That being the case, if you will please subscribe to the channel, go ahead and do that right now. Okay, do that immediately. Make sure you help me get, I think I need another 200 subscribers, and I will be at 9,200, I believe. I'm sorry, 92,000. I'm trying to get to 100,000 subscribers. So I never really used to ask for people to subscribe to the channel, but I got to get a little bit more proactive with that. If you've already subscribed to the channel, you probably need to double check, because YouTube and I have not been getting along since I sued them. How about that, bitch? You didn't know that? Because of just what we're dealing with right now. Some people are preferred in the algorithm while others are not, okay? So I need you guys to help me override this YouTube nonsense by subscribing to the channel. That being the case, what we're going to do now, let me recite this title, and all my Samuel L. Jackson fans, you can fill in the blank. Shout out to Samuel L. He's one of our great Black American entertainers, HBCU graduate. I believe he went to Morehouse down in Atlanta. But anyway, you guys, well, you know, here's the thing. We're going to talk about ICE tonight. We're going to talk about ICE, okay? You know, a lot of times when we see these ICE agents and Border Patrol agents, when we look at the videos online, we see men wearing masks with foreign accents, okay, or women with foreign accents. Not all, okay, but enough that it's starting to make us ask the question, what's going on? And oftentimes it's Hispanic accents, okay? And that accent tells us that the person is a foreigner, not born in the United States, because we got a lot of Hispanic people. Some you guys are saying there's a buzzing noise. Is there a buzzing noise? How's it sound? Is there a buzzing noise? Let me know if there's a buzzing noise. I'll try to fix that right now. If there's a buzzing noise, let me know. Is it still buzzing? Huh? Buzzing noise, hit the number one. Well, let me, if there's a buzzing noise, let me know. We don't want this. Okay, so I'm gonna have to go here. That should have gotten rid of the buzzing noise. All right, is it clear now? Is the buzzing noise gone now, family? Is it gone? All right, is it better? Let me know. You gotta let me know. Communication rules the nation. Okay, so let me know so I can know. I know what's going on. All right, they say it's completely gone. All right, cool. Let's get back to it. So basically, what I'm saying is there's a lot of ICE agents with these accents. Okay, and now you can't be an ICE agent without being a citizen of the United States, which lets me know that these ICE agents are naturalized citizens. They're citizens, but still, if you were born in another country, if you're from another country, you're going to have a different language and a different culture. And at the same time, these agents are stopping and questioning Americans who are born in the United States. They question people based on how they sound, how they speak, and how they look. And in many videos, family, they also stop people they assume are illegal slash undocumented who are themselves Hispanic, using, and what do they base it on? They use it on appearance and accent. And to me, that irony is hard to miss. You see, ICE agents asking people where they were born, and then almost automatically the person being questioned asks the agent the same thing. Where are you from? And suddenly the question is treated like it's wrong. Suddenly it's not okay to ask. Suddenly they're being prejudiced. You know what I'm saying? And so before we go any further, there's something the audience needs to understand, because there's a lot of confusion around who these agents are and what authority they actually have. All right. Now, ICE and Border Patrol agents are legally required to be U.S. citizens. Okay. But that also includes naturalized citizens, as I said earlier, not just people born in the U.S. Okay. That means many of these agents were born in other countries. They were raised in different cultures, and they speak with accents, and they understand foreign languages. And at the same time, the Department of Homeland Security relies heavily on contractors, people who look and operate like federal officers, right, to work the detention centers and transportation and medical services and enforcement support. And to the average person on the street, there's often no clear distinction. None of us would really be able to tell. Now, it's also important to understand that Border Patrol and ICE are not the same thing, even though they both fall under the Department of Homeland Security. Border Patrol agents are primarily responsible for enforcing immigration and custom laws at or near the border. Okay, and their mission is focused on preventing unlawful entry, smuggling of human trafficking, drugs into the United States. And ICE agents, on the other hand, they're able to focus on the interior enforcement. They get in the cities, whatnot, and and that's what they're supposed to be doing. Okay, but ICE agents generally have broader authority to conduct immigration enforcement operations. Okay, and so when you see masked agents, all right, operating deep inside American cities and knocking on doors and stopping people on the street or conducting enforcement actions far from the border, you're not looking necessarily at Border Patrol in the traditional sense. You're looking at interior immigration enforcement. Okay, and those people are often backed by contractors operating with wide discretion and a significant amount of power. Okay. And here's the thing. A lot of these people, most of them that I've seen, are wearing masks, and they're hiding their identities while questioning the identity of us and other people. Now add in what the Supreme Court just ruled. Okay. The court said that race, skin color, accent, language, and appearance can legally be considered by immigration agents when deciding who to stop and question. And that's the law of the land now. Okay. So, we need to be honest about what this means. We now have a system where citizenship doesn't matter as much as how you look or how you sound. And people who sound foreign can be treated as suspicious. and even if they're American, and the people enforcing these rules look and sound just like the communities being targeted. So when Americans push back and ask ICE agents, where were you born? That isn't confusion or ignorance. It reflects a system exactly as it works today. Now, that being the case, I want to just go ahead and jump straight into this thing. I have some videos I want to share with you all. And the thing is, hey, look, many of us voted for Donald Trump. We might not like the mechanism and way things are being enforced, but the question we need to ask ourselves is, did we get the money's worth? Did we get our money's worth? And what I mean by that is what's going on, is it worth it? Is this effective? I don't know. I guess it depends on how you look, but I have some video footage I'd like to share with you all. And we'll go over that, and then we'll get into the broadcast a little deeper. Y'all make sure you hit the #1 button and let me know you can hear what's being said clearly, because, as I said before, I can't tell what you hear, but you'll let me know. Check it out. Hit the #1 button. This is from Fox News. Fair use.
He's listening. A new study reveals homicides fell a record 21% between 2024 and 2025 as carjackings plummeted by 43%. The CDC also reporting deadly drug overdoses fell by more than 20% in the same time frame. The drop in overdose deaths comes as the Trump administration focuses on securing the border, with a retired NYPD sergeant telling Fox News Digital, quote, securing the borders has a lot to do with the drop. Joining us now is...
All right, so crime has dropped, right? And you're going to have this police officer come on and say, yeah, that has a lot to do with the fact that we have less criminals, specifically less people walking around. Less people means less crime. It goes with the territory. Less crowded cities. We know urban inner cities. We know poverty brings about crime, and it's just something we can't ignore. So when you remove those elements, crime goes down, especially when you target criminals. All right, let's finish listening to this fellow.
Retired NYPD inspector and Fox News contributor Paul Morrow. So great to see you this morning, Paul, as always. It's kind of amazing that people are even surprised that if you close the border and get rid of criminal aliens, that, maybe the crime drops.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be surprising. Now, to be clear, what you're going to see in the reporting on this in almost every mainstream outlet is those metrics and then the word but or however, right? So that they can categorize it as something that the Trump administration had nothing to do with. This is an historic trend that's been going on for a while. Don't believe it. Now, it is true that murders were trending down, but the past year, that is to say last year, 2025, had the single biggest drop in murders in American history ever recorded. Wow. That is not an accident. When you look at the administration's use of all the three-letter agencies, ATF, DEA, HSI, FBI, and putting them into high crime areas and changing their mission from what it had been to a lot of politicized stuff, maybe some white-collar stuff that they've moved away from, into interdicting violent criminals. Well, of course, if you throw all those resources at it, you're going to start to see it drop. And that's, in fact, what we had in the murder rate and some of the other violent.
So what you got to understand is most of the law enforcement around the country is underfunded. So, of course, when you get an influx of police officers, an influx of law officers, things are going to change. So that's what you see happening, okay?
Crimes. And of course, most famously in the last year was watching President Trump deploy actual troops in places like Washington, D.C. To bring crime down there. Dan Bongino, former FBI director, was talking about this with Hannity, I think last night. Watch.
All right.
It was not complicated, Sean. Cash and I figured out very early on broken windows policing. About 70 to 80% of violent street crime is committed by 0.5% of the population. You go and get these dirtbags and these mutts off the street, these pieces of garbage. You use UFAP warrants, Vicar, RICO crime, gang statutes, any federal statute we could dig up, and the president was all about it from day one.
It reminds me of something I've heard.
All right, so you kind of get the point. I mean, and I don't want to beleaguer the point, But we've seen ICE in action. We see what ICE does. We see the aggressive tactics. We have ICE, DHS, Border Patrol, whomever you think. Yes, right?
Get off the street! Get off the street! You got sprayed? I'm dying, yeah.
I don't think the average American is accustomed to seeing this like this, seeing this sort of police enforcement on American streets, right?
You okay?
No, it's not okay. It's not okay.
What happened?
They put the spray in his eye.
I mean, who all thinks this is normal? Everybody of the people in the chat room, how many of you all think this is normal, irrespective of whether or not it's effective? We've already established the point that it seems to be effective, at least on the reduction of crime, right? This is what I voted for. This is what many of you all who are on my channel voted for. Even if you didn't vote for it, you appreciate crime going down, right? Right? Can we be honest with each other? Can we start the healing process? Can we start coming back together as a nation? Stop allowing political divisions to divide us? Can we at least admit that it's effective? We see crime going down. We don't want crime, right? We see crime going down, right? Let's start there. Nobody wants crime. If you agree that crime being reduced is good, type yes. Okay? I know we got some liberals in here. We got some right wingers. We got some left wingers. Okay, we got some up the middles. Whatever you are, we can all agree that we want to live in a safe country. Yes, there's plenty of black folk in here. I know most of y'all voted for, collard greens in the tub, but she didn't win. And bottom line is crime is reduced. Okay. But the question is not that. The question is, hey, do you think this is normal? Right? Is this normal? Is this shocking to you? Huh?
For no reason. For no reason.
All right. To the average American, does this seem like the law enforcement that you grew up with? Huh? Do these folks seem to be, like what you used to be in treated? Right? I mean, you got ICE just jumping out with the bear spray, you know? Shout out to all these folks out here protesting. I'm resting, but I support you. And I think I can speak for most foundational Black Americans. We are resting, but I support you on what you do. Okay? And then this is they are deep. Deep yourself. Ice in action, right?
Yeah, I got
it. This is not Barney Fife law enforcement. This is straight up, full out assault team law enforcement, right? We can agree with that, huh?
Yeah, Jack, you're gonna get that done for here to the solution over there.
Okay.
Now I can talk. We're gonna get we're fat as fuck. Fat as fuck. All right. All right.
Ice is running them down in the snow, man. Look at him. The man came out of his shoe right there. Don't move. They got one down. Okay. So look, we see ICE in action, man. We see ICE. Crime rate is going down. I mean, Why are we complaining, right? We should be thankful, shouldn't we? We should be thankful, right? But the question is,
I don't know what the hell's going on.
this little black couple is up
Bothering me? Just go. Chill out. Please, we do not need all that. Bro, listen.
Born here in Minneapolis?
No, Illinois.
There's a black American couple being questioned by ICE. I guess they assumed that they were African, and as soon as the brother started speaking, said, "Nah, that ain't us. Nope, not us."
Man, you see ain't no foreigners up in here. We ain't Mexican, African, none of that shit.
We ain't Mexican, African, none of that. We ain't none of them cans. Okay, keep
American.
going.
I know. So why would y'all even pull me over? You see,
Right.
What's going on?
And who is this? Who's this cowboy?
What's going on?
Y'all gonna get back in your motherfucking car.
Yeah. And the thing I want you all to understand is something that I understand. Black Americans are Americans. Okay, what I notice oftentimes is a lot of the immigrant population, you all are timid when dealing with the police. We are not. Okay, that's the fundamental difference that I need you to understand. A lot of even when you're dealing with juries, I remember I was having a conversation with my dad about 15 to 20 years ago, back when he was still alive, rest in peace, Pop. And he was saying, he oftentimes tries to remove immigrants and foreigners from his jury panel because they're wishy-washy. They'll go either way. Okay. Now you contrast that with the engineers and the school teachers and the scientists. You have to overprove stuff to them. But on the flip side, the immigrants, you want to get them going because they often feel like they don't have a footing to say anything, and it carries over in things like jury panels, etc. And so Black Americans, on the other hand, nah, we got you. We ain't them. We know who you're looking for. We're used to dealing with the police. It is what it is. Leave us alone. You can tell the way I speak that I'm not from somewhere else, and it's not something you can mimic. It's something that Americans understand. Okay. It's something that I guess they call themselves heritage Americans or foundational Americans, which falls under that umbrella of heritage Americans. We just have a different vibe. It's part of the culture, and it's not something that an immigrant is going to be able to pick up on first generation. It might be third generation before you pick up on that. But let's keep listening.
That's fucking ridiculous. I know y'all know y'all read my plates. That's fucking crazy. These motherfuckers that read my place, they really came and tried to
They done tried to
real.
These motherfuckers is crazy. These motherfuckers is crazy.
Yeah, and they came deep.
Wow.
I'm like, Miss Katrina, please don't fuck me, man.
Man, I told that mother, you better get the fuck out my face, nigga. I ain't giving you shit.
Ain't no motherfucking target vehicle, bitch.
Family friendly. Now you can't be in there. Stop too much. Here's another one. Check this out right here.
He's right here.
Oh, don't touch my fucking car. Back up. Don't touch my car.
Don't cuss. But you're not gonna do nothing.
Don't touch my car.
No, you don't do what you want.
This is a brother right here. This is black American.
This ain't your car. That's her car or his car. That's
trying to ask
car.
if he needs assistance.
Why can't she say something?
What you ask?
But why can't? So what's your badge number?
Down,
What is your badge number?
Señor, necesita ayuda. ¿Cuál es su nombre?
Just allow him to say something. Come on, man. Just use a little.
Don't touch my car.
Don't touch her.
I will lock your ass up.
No, you won't. No, you won't. No, you won't. No, you won't. For what?
I'll lock your ass up. You keep playing with me. I know you, brother. We see you, brother. We see you. Thank you, Patrick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A, you first person to contribute to the super chat. I appreciate you. Let's keep looking at the video. Right now we warming up. Let's look at ICE in action. And as I mentioned earlier, I find some things peculiar. Listen to this conversation carefully. All right.
Why are you asking me for my paperwork? Because of your accent. You have an accent too. Where were you born, sir? Where were you born at? Put your hands behind your back.
Look at that.
Ramon Monero was detained by U.S. Border Patrol.
See that? My man is like, where you from? Where you from? You have an accent too. How dare you try to ask me where I'm from and you sitting in here with the same accent that I have? You know where I'm from. You from where I'm from, sir. You see that? I found that quite interesting. Okay, and this is what we kind of want to talk about.
Patrol agents outside his home in a Minneapolis suburb.
I have to run that. Let me get that back up again because I don't think it was playing through. Hit the number one button. Let me know you can hear what's being said clearly. Okay. All right. Let's keep it pushing.
Agent question.
Why are you asking me for my paperwork? Because of your accent. You have an accent too. Where were you born, sir? Where were you born at?
Where were you born?
Put your hands behind your back.
Ramon Monero was detained by U.S. Border Patrol agents outside his home in a Minneapolis suburb after an agent questioned whether he was a citizen because of his accent.
I'm from this country.
I'm from this country.
You know what, sir? Now talking to you, hearing that
you're not from this country. Okay, not talking like that. What accent is that? You're not from this country. Okay, you might have the papers. Okay, you might be naturalization, but you're not from the country. Okay, I tell you this, but I let you finish. But you're not from the country. Just so you know.
You have an accent. I have reason to believe that you are not born of this country. So you just raised an accent? What country?
Well, I have to believe that you're not from the country. Your accent is just a tiny bit better than his, sir. Both of y'all are not from this country. Okay, they both of you. Shout out to F the Pete 2095.
Where are you from?
According to Monero, agents took a photo of him and searched a system that indicated he's been a U.S. citizen since 2019. They also checked his U.S. passport card, which he keeps in his wallet before letting him go. Monero, who was born in Mexico and obtained a U.S. passport in 2021, was detained in front of his 5-year-old daughter.
Well, she was shaking when I got in the home, and she's like, "Are you okay? That we're gonna take you? I don't want to lose you." And I'm like, "You're not gonna lose me." Even though I'm a citizen, I'm still feel afraid because they don't care if you're a citizen or not. And especially because I know I have a really strong accent speaking English. I know I can be a target because that's...
You do. You probably maybe learn to do American Sign Language so that you don't have to talk anymore. Maybe that will help you a little bit, Papa. But go ahead.
Well, who are they targeting just because our appearance and because of our accent?
CNN has contacted the Department of Homeland Security for comment on the incident and to ask if agents are allowed to temporarily detain people on the street with accents.
Why are you...
According to the Supreme Court, they are. All right, let's keep looking. More accent fights between ICE and people that they are trying to arrest. It's just the irony in this, the irony. Hit the number one button. Let's keep going.
You're impeding our investigation.
I don't know what you just said. I don't speak Spanish.
I'm not speaking Spanish.
I just heard your Spanish accent. I don't know what you said. You're speaking entirely too fast. I don't really want to engage with you, honestly.
Just me.
I'm just letting you know I'm here.
It's for you.
A Hispanic ICE.
It's for you. All right, you see what I'm saying? They have masks on, so you can't really identify them racially by how they look. But clearly, if you listen to this man, this black woman said, "No, you are not from here, sir. I don't even know you speaking English, but it sounds like Spanish. Your accent is so deep."
ICE agent in Minnesota was confronted by a leftist who criticized his Spanish accent while saying she was defending immigrants.
Listen.
I'm done talking to you. You can get out of my face.
If you continue that, we're going to arrest you.
Get on up out of here. So we see it's not something that's just, it's not something that's a fluke. Okay. Now, I got this other video. I found this very interesting. This is a fella who's obviously he's been dealing with ICE for a minute. Check this cat out. Hit the number one.
In ICE custody 2 times, one for 2 weeks and another for 7 months.
Right.
And I can tell you now, this whole protest ICE is probably the dumbest thing people could be doing right now. I mean, ridiculously stupendous. Number one, majority of immigrants that get picked up by ICE will have their day in court, and depending on their status and their history, they will also have the opportunity to bond out.
So basically what he's saying, if you're supposed to be here, they're sorted out. Here's what's going on that a lot of people don't understand. ICE has quotas to meet. And so they just trying to throw bodies into the machine so they can get quotas, so they don't get yelled at by Donald Trump. They don't want their boss to get fired. And so they're just throwing bodies in there, and they'll let the court sort them out. All right. And that's what this guy is saying. And that's what I understood even last year after, I looked at the news reports and did a little research. So they have quotas to meet. All right. And so it really don't matter to who to them. As long as they do the arrest, they meet their quota. It doesn't matter who sticks and who does. That's somebody else's job up the chain. All right. Let's keep
If ICE wants you, they're going to get you. Why, as an immigrant, am I not worried about ICE? Well, because I already have court. I've already bonded out the system. As long as I don't violate my bond conditions, I don't have any problems to worry about. If you really want to help people that's getting rounded up by ICE, it won't be done by you protesting. It'll be done by your pockets. Because do you know how many people is in ICE custody right now that do have a bond, but they can't bond out because you need to pay the full thing? They don't do 10%.
So all you folk out there who are protesting against ICE, what you need to do is get together with your chips, get your chips together, and start bonding these people out. That way nobody has to lose their lives. Nobody gets hurt anymore. We don't have a spectacle. You see how simple that is? A lot of these people who are being held haven't paid their bond. They don't want a 10% bond like a normal county jail. They want the whole amount because these people are not supposed to be here, or they've, they're supposed to be deported. So they want something tangible. They want some real money. If the bond is $10,000, you can't pay $1,000. They want the 10. Okay, that way we'll know. Otherwise, we're gonna keep you in. If we can't get that 10, we're gonna keep you in. You see how the problem is solved? I can end the show right now. I can end the show. See, I'll just get your chips together. Let's start a GoFundMe account, and all you people out there protesting for these folks, just put your money together, man, and we can end these problems. Let's keep listening.
Do you know how many people have to try to find pro bono lawyers because they can't afford lawyers? In my time in ICE, I've met plenty of people that attempted to avoid ICE. And yes, for a little while, they were successful, but ultimately, they gonna get you. This may sound like a conspiracy theory, but I honestly believe that politicians are playing these protesters like fiddles to incite violence and insurrection so that they can have a better opportunity at the polls. Because if there wasn't so many people impeding investigations and getting in front of ICE and fighting them and all that other stuff, all of this violence and that lady passing away in Minnesota would not have happened.
There we go. So, that's somebody who's personally experienced the system. So again, we don't necessarily have to resort to violence. I don't want to see any more Americans hurt. I don't want to see anybody hurt on American soil. But that's not the question that we want to answer today. But nevertheless, you got a lot of people pushing back, people in the news. You got a lot of people who are upset, a lot of people who I feel like are pushing a line, so to speak. Let's listen to this.
What do you mean it doesn't matter at this point? You mean the situation on the ground is already, the impression is left?
People have had enough. This is the third shooting now in less than 3 weeks. The Minneapolis Police Department went the entire year last year recovering about 900 guns from the street, arresting hundreds and hundreds of violent offenders, and we didn't shoot anyone. And now this is the second American citizen that's been killed. It's the third shooting within 3 weeks. People have been speaking out, saying that this was going to happen again. And I think everyone is kind of waiting for folks on both sides to come together and just figure this thing out. This is not sustainable. This police department has only 600 police officers. We are stretched incredibly thin. This is taking an enormous toll trying to manage all of this chaos on top of having to be the police department for a major city. It's too.
Now, I want you all to remember when Tom Homan said, if these sanctuary cities don't cooperate with us and allow us access to the jails and honor our holds on illegal or criminal immigrants, we're going to come to the neighborhoods. Remember they said that? I remember when Tom Holman said that. I remember, okay, whatever your politics may be, he did say that, okay? And so now you still have these so-called sanctuary cities where you have the state and city governments that don't want to cooperate with the federal government. And I can absolutely promise you, you're not going to get city cops fighting with federal cops to keep people, or federal law enforcement agencies to keep, that we would begin to break down. We're not going to do that. That's not fair to ask our law enforcement to fight with each other. They should be working together. And so I just want you all to keep that in mind. Okay. That is not what we want. Now, some of you folks just want to see chaos, and I recognize that. Okay. But that's not what we want. We don't want the breakdown of our American cities. And I think that's fair for us to say. Don't you all want to be able to go to Starbucks? You want to be able to get gas? You don't want the lights to go out for 3 or 4 weeks. You don't want the real criminals to start running crazy. All right. So we need our police force, both federal and state, and I would hope that they would be able to get things together. Now, I'm gonna let him finish, and we're gonna move on to the next.
Are you calling on ICE to leave?
That's not his job to do that.
We understand that for as long as there has been ICE, there has been immigration enforcement in Minnesota.
Right.
The problem is not that enforcement is happening, it's clearly the manner in which these things are happening.
Well,
now, I'm going to say this. I want to talk to the people on the right. Okay? Look, let's be honest with each other. We can admit that we do want to remove the criminal aliens and the illegal aliens and anybody in this country who's not supposed to be here. But we don't want to do that and infringe upon our rights under the Constitution, rights that we fought for. We don't want to do that because there's a slippery slope. Once you already have people saying a man who had a right to carry a concealed weapon somehow was wrong because he took it in a public space. That's already that where there happen to be some police activity going on. We're already on that slippery slope. Anytime you have mass media saying stuff like that, that's going to turn around and bite you in the butt. It's a convenient argument for people who want to win right now, but it's not a convenient for people like me who heavily believe in the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution, and that it is what separates us from Europe and some of these other countries where they disarm their population and there's really nothing they can do. You guys want to go back to try to stabbing people? Is that what you want? You got some criminals running in your house. You no longer are able to whip out your defense rifle, right? You gotta try to stab somebody with a butter knife. We don't want that. All right. So let's not, for the purpose of trying to win this argument this week, let's not give away our Second Amendment rights. Furthermore, we don't want to give away our First Amendment rights, and that's the right to film what is ever in the public space, even if it includes police officers doing their job. All right, it's a slippery slope. But although we agree with that, we also can come to the agreement that the way in which law enforcement is enforcing the immigration laws is entirely too much. Okay, we don't want to see that in a civilized country. Some of you do, because you're here for the chaos. You want to see people get beat up. It's like an action movie to you. You get a thrill out of it, but that's BS. Normal people who want a peaceful society to exist in know that we don't want law enforcement beating up folks and snatching kids out of the car. It's crazy. But let's move on. We'll look at some more videos, and we'll keep it pushing on this. Now, I want you guys to check this out. Hit the #1 button if you hear clearly. Shout out to
I think we can debate a lot of things. I think the point here is that the government is telling us through the president and the vice president and Levitt putting I stand with ICE on all of the socials that they can kill us at any time and they can get away with it.
Oh, good Lord.
And I think if we interfere with them while they're disappearing people off the street, if we don't like them kidnapping our neighbors, if we don't like them building concentration camps, if we film.
All right, see, and the language, concentration camps, this is not Nazi Germany. This is the United States in 2026. Okay, they're not disappearing people off the street. This is not Berlin in 1937. Okay, this is law enforcement enforcing laws. That's what they're doing. There's at what point is getting arrested and put in jail called disappearing? We know where you are. They have cell phones there. All right, so let's be reasonable. Let's kind of tone the rhetoric down a little bit. All right, because when you have people on mass media, I know why. They want you to be outraged. Oh, and now your clip is going viral. But see, this is reckless. We already have a lot of people in America who are on edge and nervous. This is just unnecessary. And whatever, it's coming from the right, it's coming from the left. But at the end of the day, we understand they want clicks and views.
Own them while they're doing it. We can't do anything about it because this is no longer the land of the free. And if you do something about it, they will lie about you. They will lie about who you were. And this is the point that they're trying to make right now.
What about that gentleman who was being arrested or all these other people? What about if he had bail and instead of going out there and fighting with ICE, you just say, you know what? And again, you have a right to freedom of expression, freedom of assembly. You can do that. But what about you guys found out where he was being taken and just go bail him out? And that way nobody has to lose their life. And I know that's not the exciting thing to say. I know you all want me to say, get out there and pound your fists against the concrete wall, but I'm not going to say that because it's stupid. It's not going to change anything. You know, we have to have this is a country of laws, not a country of what I want to do today or what makes me feel better. I want to have I'm doing it for the gram. I'm just saying, right? Can we calm down a little bit? Now, let's take a look at some of these videos, some more videos I want you guys to listen to. Hit the #1 button if you can hear them clearly. These are regular folks talking.
Responding to this comment left to them by the parent of an ICE agent. And that got me thinking, if you're the parent of an ICE agent or an ICE agent, you may want to tune in. See, my mother's always been there to help me see what I wasn't seeing, to offer me words of wisdom when I was operating in life without an eye for consequences. Please allow me to offer that to you now. I am actually trying to help, believe it or not. See, you seem to be operating as though this administration will always be in power. Nothing could be further from the truth. And when a new presidential administration does make it into office with an eye for holding these guys accountable, two things are going to happen. They will happen. The only question is when. #1, the Supreme Court will get stacked, either 13 or 15 justices. And #2, this is where you need to pay close attention. When Trump came into office this time, he completely gutted the Civil Rights Division at the Department of Justice. Then through the big beautiful bill, he allocated tens of millions of new budgetary dollars to ICE and DHS. You obviously know that. But when a new presidential administration comes in to hold these guys accountable, they're going to take those dollars from DHS and ICE. They're going to throw them back at the Civil Rights Division at the Department of Justice, and they are going to hire a shit ton of attorneys to process the backlog of civil rights abuse cases that will be easily prosecutable using the audio and visual documentation currently being compiled. Many of you think that those masks will help you avoid accountability, but they will not, because if you think about it, you've been walking around with a cell phone in one of those tactical pockets of yours, and all they need to do is take the date, time, and location stamp from that video documentation and superimpose it with the date, time, and location stamp of your cell phone records, and when the courtroom portion of this shitty reality TV show does begin, ICE agents will begin throwing one another under the bus to offering testimony to avoid accountability for themselves. And Kristi Noem's not going to keep you out of the hot seat. She can't even keep herself out of the hot seat.
So he's not wrong. Right now, we have 2 people who are unalived in Minnesota. And I don't see that Minnesota is not going to be a democratically run state anytime in the foreseeable future. The medical examiner, at least regarding Miss Renee Good, has deemed her death a homicide, which means they have a right to prosecute someone for homicide. And there is no statute of limitation on that prosecution, which means they can prosecute you next year or 50 years from now. They can catch you when you're 70 years old when they find your identity. And I assume the same is going to happen for Alex Jeffrey Peretti. Okay. So, and you know, rest in peace to those 2, whatever position you are. Nobody wants to see the loss of life. We don't want to see our fellow Americans, you know, unalive like that. It's horrible. period. And anybody who thinks otherwise, you're an asshole. Okay, forgive the language, but the thing is, there will be a day of reckoning. And just like this gentleman says, you will be found. If they want to find you, you will be found. And so when Trump is out of there in 3 years, when they get your identity and the indictments come down, there's no one is going to protect you. So these roughhouse tactics where Americans are getting hurt, where Americans are getting unalived, you ICE agents have to be mindful that your directives be damned. Okay, it's going to be your butt that's on the line. I just want you to consider that. So if you are an ICE agent, if you are law enforcement, you're not going to be protected by those masks. Now, I'm gonna get to the crux of the point of this broadcast in a minute. Who are these mask mother effers, and where do they come from? I'm gonna talk about that in a minute, but I want you to let you know the heat is you only got about 3 more years of Trump. Okay. And trust me, we know Trump well enough to know that he's going to go about his business with his billions and focus on his family and himself and be unbothered by what's going on with the minions that he used to enforce ICE. And so, again, let's keep it pushing. Hit the #1 button. Let me know you can hear clearly.
And if you're a minority ICE agent, I wonder if you put any thought into when that does all start, who do you think those racist white ICE agents are going to point the finger at?
Good point, yeah.
Anyway, for all ICE agents, at the very least, at a bare minimum, at some point in the future, there will be a knock at your door. You are going to spend years of your life fighting in court, both criminally and civilly. That's a fact. Worst case scenario is you will go to prison if you truly are involved in violating someone's constitutional rights. And if you're a minority ICE agent, I wonder who you will look to for protection in prison. The Aryan gangs aren't going to help you, and I doubt the ethnically specific gangs are going to want too much to do with you either. And I wonder during
somebody type ethnically specific. I like that.
this period of time how many of their relatives you will detain and or deport. Remember, guys, I know you got a $50,000 bonus, but all that glitters is not gold.
Yeah. I was just following orders. We've heard that before, right?
This will happen. It's just a matter of when.
And he's not wrong, okay? And you can call it what you want to call it, but he's not wrong. So when things like this happen, keep this in mind.
Policy to force their way into American homes even without a judicial warrant. The next stage may have begun. This is going to be a slightly longer video, but I need you to listen to me. This is the document I'm talking about. It says that an internal memo from May 2025 from DHS and ICE authorizes ICE agents to enter American homes without consent, exigent circumstances, or a judicial warrant, which is the basic standard for the Fourth Amendment. The memo authorizes agents to use whatever force is necessary to enter a home with just an administrative warrant. The memo contains only 2 limits to these sweeping new powers, and those are the entering of third-party homes, which cannot be accessed.
All right, so basically what he's saying, if there's an illegal immigrant who's believed to be in a third-party home, in other words, the home of someone else who's not the person looked for, not the illegal immigrant, then they're still going to need a traditional warrant for that. Okay, that's what he's saying. All right, ICE has been operating with these administrative warrants. The administrative law judges fall under the executive branch, which is, under the Constitution, and you guys know that we're divided into 3 different equal branches: executive, legislative, judicial. The judicial branch can issue warrants. That's what your traditional judge. The executive branch has administrative law judges, okay, that work for ICE, and they can issue warrants, okay, but these are administrative warrants. So that's why when people say, hey, this is a judge, it's a warrant, but it's not issued by a real judge, they're really saying it's administered by a judicial administrative officer, okay? That's what that's what he means. Okay.
Using force, and the need for an I-205, which is an administrative warrant that contains a final order of removal. What does that mean? That if the content of the memo is confirmed, the government would be now openly violating the Fourth Amendment rights by allowing federal agents to force their way into a home based on an order issued by the same agency that employs those federal agents. And I'm preparing a Substack deep dive that explains more in detail the content of the memo.
So you guys get the point, and that's questionable. I don't know where that particular what lawyer came up with that, but on its face, it seems unconstitutional. It seems like a violation of the 4th, 5th, and 14th Amendment to me. All right, and I don't know what authority they're basing that on, but it stinks pretty bad just on. Just from listening to it. Let's keep listening. We got a couple of more videos. Hit the number 1 button.
I don't know what the hell's going on.
I think we checked this one out already. We'll go to another one. You guys make sure you let me know if you can hear everything clearly. All right. I need to know. All right.
Basically saying that every single immigrant and the children that they've had since 1965 have all been complete failures.
About the 1965 Immigration Act and what that means in American history. So during the civil rights era, and this is the simplest way I can put it, there was a thought in effect of applying civil rights to immigration policy for the globe and to create a civil right for people from every part of the world to come to America in ever-growing numbers. And so a system that for years, as you mentioned, had been tightly restricted, suddenly established this global ability of people in every part of the world to come to America, to bring their families to America. And so what you saw between 1965 and today was the single largest experiment on a society, on a civilization that had ever been conducted in human history. Yeah. Not just the 76 million immigrants that were brought in, largely from the third world, but their descendants too. So you see with a lot of these immigrant groups, not only is the first generation unsuccessful, but you see persistent issues in every subsequent generation.
This is why after Trump won, I said that every single person of color, especially Latino, that voted for Trump basically spat in the face of the civil rights movement and the black community. That these people have never liked you and that they only wanted your vote so then they could take away everything you have. And people were foolish enough to give them that power. Stephen Miller knows his history, and if you're willing to listen for once, let me put you on game. It was because of the civil rights movement and the black community's hard work and their allies that we were able to have immigration reform, which made it easier for a lot of immigrants to naturalize or for them to be able to request their families to come to the U.S. And they were also the beneficiaries of birthright citizenship, meaning their children and their children's children could be born U.S. citizens. And since those laws passed, the right-wing Republicans have all been trying to do everything possible.
We tried to tell you. I mean, black people, the good, kind, wonderful black people that care about you tried to tell you. Not me. I don't care. I voted for Trump. Because I'm focused on my own interests, but the good, lovely, wonderful black people that actually care about you, shout out to all the 93% of black women who voted for Kamala Harris, and shout out to the 79% of black men who voted for Kamala Harris, even though that is not in our interest. Okay, but you see, here's the thing. I want you all to remember. I want you to remember. I don't know if you remember. I know people have short memories, and but I want you to remember something. Remember
We
this.
vote for Mr. Trump. We vote for Mr. Trump. Yes, Mr. Trump. We love you. We love you. On the way to the White House.
Beyond betray. They used us. They actually, during the campaign, and I don't want to make this political, but during the campaign, the elected officials from the Republican Party, they actually told us that he was not going to touch the documented people.
He lied, baby. He lied to you. He lied. He lied to you, baby. And I knew what he was gonna do. He never held back. But anyway, let's let the music play. Everybody in the background, come on. on, everybody, get it. Remember, y'all remember that? That was y'all. Okay, excuse me. Great song. It's a beautiful song. I'm just saying, I remember the beautiful shout out to all the beautiful, wonderful black people who did their best. Y'all told them, you're good, beautiful. It's not even in our interest to vote for Donald Trump. Our leaders have been telling us.
The Democrats opened the borders in 1965. But the real betrayal happened in 1994. Because that's the year a black woman tried to warn them. And they silenced her. Her name was Barbara Jordan, a civil rights icon and the first Southern black woman elected to the House of Representatives. She wasn't a Republican. She was a Democrat royalty. President Bill Clinton appointed her to lead the U.S. Commission on Immigration Reform. Her job was to look at the data and answer one question. Is immigration good for the average American worker? The Democrats expected her to say yes. But Barbara was honest. She looked at the numbers and she saw the truth. She released a report that shocked Washington. She concluded that low-skilled immigration was directly hurting the most vulnerable Americans, specifically black men without college degrees. She said, immigration policy must put the interests of the American worker first. She recommended cutting legal immigration by 1/3 and cracking down on illegal labor to protect black wages. So, what did the Democrats do? Here, a black woman.
What did they do? What did they do when she said that? What did
the Democrats do? Did they listen to this black woman that they appointed? No. Barbara Jordan died in 1996. And the moment she was gone, Bill Clinton buried her report. Instead of cutting immigration, they expanded it. They chose cheap labor over black livelihood. She gave them the blueprint to save the black middle class, and they threw it in the trash.
You black folks y'all still voted for Kamala Harris. Y'all still did. You still did it. Salute to you. You voted against your own interests when you got Biden in office and he opened the floodgate and let all those folk come up through the southern border. You voted against your interests again when Trump ran for Trump 2, Trump 47. Okay, and what are the Democrats don't thank you. They mad at you. You got to stop that. But I salute you. You are wonderful people. Somebody type collard greens in the tub. Somebody type collard greens in the tub. That's who you voted for. That's who you voted for. You voted against your own, and guess what? It didn't even work. They didn't even appreciate your family. They did not even appreciate the sacrifice that you made. Okay? But let's kind of dig into this a little bit more. I want to know, all these accents, who are these people? All right? Who are these people that are arresting us? Or not us, but who are they? Let's take a listen to this fella.
To me how ICE is hiring foreigners to deport foreigners.
Hey, you touch me? I didn't touch you. You touch me? I didn't touch you. You touch me? It's all on camera. You touch me? It's all on camera. It's all on.
You see that? You touch me? Somebody, where my FBA is at? Is he one of us? Is this a foundational Black American? Let's listen to that again. Let's listen carefully to the intonation and the syntax and pronunciation of his words.
Hey, you touch me? I didn't touch you. You touch me? I didn't touch you. You touch me? It's all on camera. You touch me? It's all on camera. It's all.
You see that? Is he one of us? Was that one of our people? It don't feel like he one of us. He don't feel like us. That feel like, I don't know, Haiti somewhere. That feel like Caribbean. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. That doesn't feel like us. How did he get a job? How did he get? Do you know how these people? Let's keep listening.
It's all on camera. You touch me. It's all on camera. You're making contact. It's all. You touched me. I didn't touch nobody. Yes, you did. I'm over there recording it.
These are the people y'all giving power to. Is this who you giving power to? Somebody said Nigerian. I need y'all to pick this guy out. This who you gave him $50,000. You gave him a badge and a gun, and he running up on Americans. This is who you put it. Where was the screening process? I'm just saying.
Everything. I'm recording.
No. Look at the shoes. That does not look like a police officer. He got a sweatshirt. He just came from the gym. Okay.
I'm recording.
You touch me?
I'm recording.
It's okay. I'll put you on the ground right now.
Put me on the ground.
Put on the ground right now. You hear that? This is who you giving guns to.
Go back to work. Yeah.
Cut it and show to her.
I will.
Cut the video and show to her.
I will.
Cut it and show
I will.
to her. Cut the video
I will.
and show to her.
I will.
Now he black, but he's not black like us. I'm just saying.
Cut it and show to her.
He got the Raider. Is that a Raider beanie on? He got the Raider beanie on. Damn. This is who ICE hired. This is the face of law enforcement.
You see how you look at me?
Go to work. Good boy.
Now, maybe it's possible this guy's a naturalized citizen or something like that, but I guarantee you that accent, he wasn't born here.
He ain't from Compton. I can tell you that. That is not a Chicago accent. All my people from Georgia. Did that sound like a Georgia accent to you? Okay. I don't know. It didn't sound like a Georgia accent to me. All right. Let's see. Who these. I want to know who these people are. Okay. I want to know who these people are.
ICE's ranks right now. Just watch this video.
You literally can join ICE and be God's appointed avenger, right? Who seeks to carry out God's vengeance on the evildoer. Immigration is evil, and those who are flooding.
Is this Avengers 8? God's appointed avenger. This is what you telling these people? You got this little black African thinking he is God's avenger. Is that what y'all in the introductory class to ICE? You give them $50 a gun and tell them that they're God's avenger. You can't say that. You look, all you white folks who are hiring these Africans, you can't tell them that they are God's avenger and turn them loose on the streets of the United States. What is wrong with you people? You got to do better than that. Have y'all looked? This is who you're hiring. This is who Kristi Noem is hiring right now to be ICE agents. Huh? This is ridiculous. Let's keep listening.
Our country, it's not theirs. They are flooding our country like a swarm of locusts and eating up the inheritance that your fathers, by their blood, sweat, and tears, laid up for you. It is a breach of a rebellion against the fifth commandment to honor your father and mother. If you are a heritage American and you can track your ancestry back even just 3 generations.
Heritage Americans need to get out there and work for ICE. We don't need to hire these not Americans to be for ICE. Okay, there's a different culture, different language. I'm just saying, I've seen too much, sir. Okay, I know you are God's holy scepter or something like that, but this is not working.
You have some degree of heritage here in America. Your fathers, they literally sacrificed for you, and what they did for you and for your.
Our father, you mean George Washington? Our father. Let's keep listening, man. Let's keep listening. This cat, man.
Children's children is being devoured by those who it does not belong to.
This dude has his Dick Cheney confidence, man. You ever watched Dick Cheney back in the day? Dick Cheney would say something and have you believing that every word that came out of his mouth was written in stone and certified by the Lord himself. Just sitting up there making up stuff as you go along. All right.
And, anyway, so to join the proper mechanism through ICE and to become in that sense, God's appointed deacon to carry out vengeance on the evildoer who is devouring the inheritance of the children.
I mean, think about the rationale. You have immigrants, you hired immigrants to deport immigrants because you're saying that they're devouring God's what we're entitled to by God, those of us who are heritage Americans or foundational Black Americans, which apparently falls under that umbrella, but you've hired immigrants to deport them. I don't even understand the rationale in that, sir. But we're gonna move on to somebody else who might make a little bit more sense. You guys make sure you hit the #1 button so we can keep it pushing. I'm gonna let you guys see this video, and we're gonna get to work. All right.
Was a 37-year-old ICU registered nurse who was executed and murdered today by ICE in Minneapolis.
Who is ICE?
66% of ICE agents are men, 30% of ICE agents are Latino, 50% of Border Patrol is Latino, making it a very close statistic to their white peers. What that statistic means is for every single white ICE agent, there is 1 Latino. For every single Black ICE agent, there are 2 Latinos. For every single Asian ICE agent, there are 4 Latinos.
Well, did you all hear that? These are guys that so ICE has hired a bunch of Latinos to be God's Avengers. Somebody type God's Avengers in the chat room. And at this juncture, we'll go ahead and proceed with the broadcast. Now, again, somebody told me on my page that when I said, hey, you know, it appears to me that these ICE agents are actually foreigners or foreign-born people. And somebody said, oh, that's how dare you say that, man? You have no proof. I mean, we can't get our kids to come out the basement, some of us. So what makes you think they're going to go out there and fight ICE in 20-degree weather? Okay. So here's what I want you to understand. And I've done this research. I want you all to visit the DHS website. I want you all to visit the DHS website. All right. And let's go ahead and give a little background. The question today, and we're going to start the learning, is who's enforcing immigration law, right? And I'm going to give you a demographic breakdown, and you can judge it how you want to judge it, all right? ICE, and as I said in my Samuel L. Jackson, who are these mother fudge cakes, and where did they come from, right? I hear ICE agents with Spanish accents and African accents, and I don't know where these people are from. So ICE has expanded to more than 22,000 officers. That's about 120% increase since early 2025. They've added another 12,000 new hires in less than a year. All right. Somebody type big, beautiful bill. And so under commonly cited demographic assumptions, 30% of those ICE agents, that's approximately 6,600, are Latino. Okay. And that's about the same amount of white ICE agents, but they number the Black ICE agents 2-to-1, and some of them are going to be Africans and Caribbeans. They outnumber the Asians 4-to-1. All right, and the Border Patrol, they have somewhere between 19,000 and 21,000 agents, and this is even more concentrated. They got about 51% Latino and 44% white. All right, with the Black and the Asian agents together, this is barely 2.5%. And so you combine the Border Patrol, and now roughly it's 42,000 agents, right? More or less 16,800 are Latino. That's about 40%. And so by contrast, in 2023, the entire Department of Homeland Security workforce was 22% Hispanic, 51% white, 16% Black, 6.3% Asian, and of course it's about 70% male representation across the board. Now here's what you need to understand, okay? A lot of these people were not born here, okay? That's what you need to understand, okay? That's what you need to understand. This wasn't a gradual increase. They've grown dramatically in a short period of time. They were basically grabbing anybody they could. And these figures come from the Department of Homeland Security press releases on ICE hiring surge. And you can also find it on the DHS Equal Employment Opportunity Workforce data. And that provides the official demographic breakdowns for the Border Patrol. Now, the question you have to ask yourself is, what does this actually mean? Now, you don't have to like what I'm saying. Go to the website, man. See for yourself. Come back and prove me wrong. I'd love for you all to prove me wrong. I spent some time looking at this stuff yesterday, today, the day before yesterday. But the question is, what does this mean? What it means is that ICE and DHS have recruited large numbers of agents from Latino communities, including people who were raised in other countries with different political histories and legal traditions and customs and social norms than those that we have here in the United States. Okay, it's going to be different from our American culture. It's going to be different from the rights we grew up under the U.S. Constitution. And that matters because those rights we fought for under the Constitution don't extend beyond the American borders, and neither does the cultural or constitutional rights that Americans have raised from since birth. All right. And in many of these countries throughout Latin America, policing traditions are far more centralized, and they are far less restrained and are far less accountable to the individual. Have you ever drove to Mexico? Make sure you have some money. You might need to pay the cops. Okay. These civil rights protections and due process and limits on state power, they don't operate the same way down there. Respect for individual autonomy, free movement, constitutional limits on enforcement, they're not taught or enforced in the same way because those ideas were not embedded by those countries' founding documents or institutions. In some parts of Mexico and other parts of Latin America, violence has become a regular part of daily life. Powerful drug cartels operate openly. The government corruption is widespread, and people see extreme violence in the streets. Literally, these people see bodies hanging from bridges. I mean, there are places with mass graves. They have public executions meant to send a message. On top of that, you have tens of thousands of people every year in cartel that die every year because of cartel-related violence. And when someone grows up in that environment, when you grow up in an environment like that, it changes how human life is valued in your mind. Violence becomes normalized. Fear replaces trust, and power replaces law. And that doesn't mean that every person from these countries is violent or immoral. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. Okay? I'm not saying that. But we have to accept the fact that that environment shapes your behavior, especially when it comes to policing and the use of force. You can't grow up surrounded by routine violence and then weak accountability and corrupt institutions and automatically develop the same respect for human life and an individual's rights that the U.S. Constitution is built on. And in many of these countries in Latin America, like I said, these police traditions are they're different, okay? They are just different, all right? When people from those environments become naturalized U.S. citizens and are hired into the federal law enforcement or any law enforcement, those early experiences don't simply disappear. Culture doesn't turn off when somebody puts on a badge. We know this is true. We already accept it in other contexts. That's why we don't allow open members of the Ku Klux Klan and other violent extremist organizations or people with a history of abusing others at work or in law enforcement. We don't let them in law enforcement. We understand that belief systems and moral frameworks carry over into the job and your perception, especially when someone is given a gun and authority over others. And this is why it becomes easier to understand why we have a rise in these brutal tactics and enforcement, excessive enforcement that we see coming from these ICE agents. We got armed agents allowing them to walk around with masks on so they can shield their identities. We've given them broad discretion under law to operate, okay? And when enforcement culture lacks deep respect for humanity and human dignity, that power is going to get abused. especially against people who look vulnerable or different. And we also have to be honest about the racial dynamics that exist within Latin American societies themselves. Colorism, racial hierarchy, they're all real and well documented across Central America, South America, the Caribbean, and Mexico. Concepts that their scholars discuss, the preferences that they have for lighter skin or internalized racial ranking. They don't disappear just because someone crosses the border because you come to the United States. Even within the Latino communities is well documented. They have something they call blanqueamiento and something that they call mejor la raza. All right? Hell, any good trial lawyer will tell you that people don't leave their deeply held beliefs at the door. Jurors don't do it. Cops don't do it. Judges don't do it. Federal agents don't do it. Those beliefs shape discretion. They describe your tone and your suspicion and your use of force. And when enforcement power is paired with a legal system that now allows agents to rely on appearance, accent, and perceived ethnicity, the results are going to be predictable. And you got people out here telling them that they're the avengers of God. This is not just law. You all are missing the point. Laws are only as fair as the people enforcing them. Black people have been telling you all that. And so what you are witnessing is not neutral law enforcement. It's enforcement filtered through culture, insensitive bias, operating under the cover of the Supreme Court approval and the presidential approval. You don't have to like what I'm saying, but it doesn't matter to me because you're going to hear it because these are the facts and I can back it up. Go on over there to the DHS website and see for yourself. Now, the way ICE agents are increasingly, how they're treating American citizens, okay, alongside the undocumented immigrants. I don't think any of us have a problem with them sending immigrants home. My position is send them all home. We don't have a problem with that. All right. But what we do have a problem with is the disregard of constitutional norms, not just enforcement of written law. It's one thing to have a statute on the paper. It's another thing to apply that law in a way that targets folk, okay, black folk, brown folk, whoever, right? You got all these white immigrants out here that are here, somewhere between 500,000 to 800,000. I don't really see them like that, okay? But the bottom line is you got white people out there who are trying to protest and they're getting hurt, all right? But again, you have to understand something. It's not about the way the law is written. It's about the enforcement culture. And when the culture shows repeated disregard for human life and constitutional rights, the results are going to be predictable. And what we're witnessing right now is an increase in aggressive raids. We see a lot of unnecessary violence. We see deadly outcomes. And that's not accidental. It reflects the values that have been allowed to take root inside these agencies and covered it, and it's going over without restraint. And that's not speculation. You see it for yourself. Now, let me tell you something that I know is going to be uncomfortable. So I want y'all to come in tight. I want all you fair-minded, well-meaning white folk to come in here and all you black folk to come in here too. I want y'all to hear me. You have people who come to this country illegally at one point, and they never embrace the ideals of America. They never cared for it. They're here to make money and send it back home. Then they ended up staying here and having children in the U.S., and the children grew up in the U.S. But they were never taught to love this country. And now those kids who are U.S. citizens, because they were born here, have grown up with that anger towards the United States. And every time something happens, instead of looking inward, they use race as a crutch. They say it's because you're racist. If you don't get the outcome you want, they say the system is rigged. If they fail, they say stuff like they don't want people like us to succeed. If they're unprepared, it becomes we're never given a fair chance or education failed us. Everything turns into generational trauma or oppression. And that's just, or that's just how society is. If nothing else, they can't claim anything else. It's never going to be about personal responsibility. Okay. That's never going to happen. They compare themselves to others and they say, look what these people have. The other groups get special treatment, or they claim, they're scared of us instead of asking whether they show discipline or preparation or long-term planning. The reason I know so well, because I see it happening in the Black community all the time. You start telling Black people to take personal responsibility, many of them will listen, but some will be like, oh man, here you come with that, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. I'm like, damn, if everybody else can do it, you can do it too, bro. But they're not trying to hear that. Okay? This is what I'm just telling you. And see, here's the thing. When everything else fails, it's always, well, if I had what they had, I'd be winning too. But at no point is there accountability, only excuses dressed up as explanation. You can disagree with me, but I know it's to be true, and anybody with common sense is agree with me. But here's the thing about the immigrants. They hear the stories from their parents and their grandparents about how great life was in their home country. But they never really lived there. And if they've been there at all, it's been for short vacations. They don't understand what it's like living there when the power goes off, or when the Wi-Fi doesn't work, or when the toilets stop running. They don't know what it's like when the basic services fail, like the water and the electricity. Nobody's coming to fix it. You're just going to do it out. See, all they really know is what they're told, that everything was great over there. So they build this romantic picture in their head of a place they don't actually know. They start digging into their own version of history, talking about land being taken and how it was theirs. And for instance, when dealing with the Mexican Americans and whatnot, you explain the land was bought and paid for by the United States after the Mexican American War. They say it was forced. It was forced. If I'm in a war with you and I want to take your land and I won the war, I'm not paying you a damn thing. But in this particular case, that's not what happened there. All right. After the Mexican American War, and I know most of you all probably know this already, but I'm just going over it for the people who don't know. After the Mexican American War, there was a treaty called the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo in 1848. Mexico lost the war. American forces pushed all the way to Mexico City. And even after winning this decisive war, the United States still paid Mexico $15 million for the territory, which included California, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, Utah, and some parts of Colorado and Wyoming. The offer to buy, and shout out to Black Marvel, the offer to buy the territory had actually been made before the war, when it was referred to as Northern Mexico, and it was refused. And after the war, the U.S. still paid anyway, and also assumed millions of Mexican debt. Okay, so along with giving them some money, we absorbed the debt. But if you run that back, $15 million is about, a little under 70, 2/3 of a billion, $700 million today in 2026 money. That's real money. That it was a purchase. Okay, but you can't tell them that. They still believe they're entitled. They believe, and that belief turns to resentment. And see, that resentment turns to resentment towards America. And even though the land was won in the war and they were paid for it, they still have that resentment. But see, here's the part they never explain. If life is really that great, if the country was really that fair and free, right, there wouldn't be so much desperation there. All right, and folks would go back. There wouldn't be this constant fight against being removed. And so that contradiction is obvious to me. They glorify a country they don't want to return to while criticizing the one they refuse to leave. And that tells you everything you need to know about these folks. It tells you nobody loves their country more than the people who don't want to go back to it. And I've learned from watching immigration enforcement up close that nobody praises their home country more than people fighting the hardest not to be sent back. Nevertheless, this is a mindset. Now, I want you to imagine this. Picture this, as they say in New Orleans. Picture this. Imagine a group of people raised or on anger, excuses, and blame. People who believe that when things don't go their way, it's always someone else's fault. Now imagine giving that group guns, badges, and federal power over the very same people they are angry with. Imagine telling them to police Americans on American soil. Shout out to Cosman. What do you think is going to happen? When people carry resentment and entitlement in the positions of authority and they're given weapons and a wide legal power to two things are going to happen. First, force replaces restraint. Instead of slowing things down and de-escalating situations, instead of using calm judgment, you're going to have people in your face talking about, you touch me, you touch me. This is what you're going to get. You're going to get people getting shot because they video cameraing you and whatnot. This is the culture that you're going to end up with. And the other thing you see that's happening right now, the American public is losing trust in law enforcement. Not that everybody trusted law enforcement in the first place. I'm just saying it's at an all-time low. Would we agree with that? When regular people, especially non-citizens, are treated like threats, then fear replaces safety. That's not theory. You see it happening right now around you. Now, according to the news, what has ICE been doing on American soil? I showed you a bunch of videos. Do I have to remind you what happened in Minneapolis on Saturday? 37-year-old Alex Pertiti, ICU nurse. I'm looking at the videos just like you are. The man is in the street filming. This is the second time a federal immigration agent has shot somebody in that very same city in January of 2026. Just earlier, Renee Good, another U.S. resident, another U.S. citizen, a mom of 3 kids. January 7th, she's shot and killed by a ICE officer, another masked law enforcement officer. And all of these have led to demonstration. Both of these people, and I hate to say it, both of these people were unalived and we had to watch it. Now look, the elephant in the room is that both of these people were white. When have 2 white people been shot by the police, by the same police agency inside of 3 weeks? Now, I don't want y'all to get me wrong, okay? White people are shot and killed by law enforcement every year, more than black people. And I know that's something most people don't know. It's definitely not promoted, but more white people get shot by the police than black people every year. It's a consistent number. But again, there's more white people in the country. But see, here's the unspoken understanding among many white Americans. I know you be mad if you want to. I don't care. All right, shout out to Cosmo. White Americans know this, and y'all know I know you know, and we all know that you know that I know that you know. I've personally seen white suspects fight with the police and still not get shot. That tells me something very big. These agents are not even operating under the same cultural norms of white privilege that normally protect white suspects in police encounters. This looks like a whole different mindset, a foreign culture operating with force. And as a black American man, I've seen this play out every day. Year after year, century after century, white people are almost never shot and killed like dogs in the street like that. Law enforcement goes out of their way not to shoot white people. That's how we know law enforcement doesn't need more training, because they don't shoot white people down like that. But hell, these ICE agents are treating they are treating white people. I mean, think about that. I've heard stories. You got mass shooters in the church. They took this boy to get a cheeseburger at McDonald's or something after he just shot up a black church. And now you got a middle-aged white man, a white woman in a soccer van, and a white man holding a cell phone to get shot down in the middle of the street. That's straight up N-word treatment. That with the hard ER. You understand me? And it doesn't stop there. These same ICE agents in Minnesota, they broke into this old man's house during winter. They dragged him out shirtless with his drawers on and some Crocs. And they held him out there in the cold weather. It turns out he was a naturalized citizen. And they've been sticking for somebody else. It was right there on the TV. It was right there for everybody to see. They didn't give a damn. Then you got two brothers down in North Carolina. They got racially profiled and assaulted by immigration in the traffic stop. You got these civil rights groups like the ACLU. They documented all this abuse and neglect, and it's just skyrocketing. I mean, these people are literally using fear as a tool, just like a drug cartel. Listen to this. Maine, there was a video that went viral. Some of y'all might have seen it. Let me know if you've seen it. ICE agent recorded telling a legally present Latino, Ecuadorian actually, Emma, she said, we're going to come back for your whole family. This is what the ICE agent said. We're going to come back for your whole family. Did you hear that? And didn't care who heard it. That sounds like drug cartel talk to me. We're going to come back for your whole family? When does law enforcement say stuff like that in America? That sounds like Pablo Escobar during the heyday of the Medellin drug cartel, not damn federal law enforcement agency in the United States. That makes no sense to me, unless you understand that the culture has changed within this particular law enforcement agency because the people have changed. You understand what I'm saying? When you arm federal agents and you give them wide authority and you allow them to hide their identities and remove their accountability, they show you who they really are. Especially when they already have a combative mindset. What are you going to get? The predictable results. You get more violence, you get more fear, you get innocent people caught in the middle. And these are not isolated incidents. These are real consequences about how power is abused, and you're going to see more of it happen. Now, the question I have to ask you all, and I want you to listen now, because I'm doing my part. I want you all to listen. If you mad, put a cape on and be super mad. I don't care where you stand, how you feel. We're going to be America first up in here. And America first means something different to me. It means putting Americans first. All right? And along with putting Americans first means American safety. So y'all listen. Whatever your political leanings are, I want you to ask yourself, as an American, as a part of the American public, what would you do if you found out the agents who are infringing on the rights and unaliving American citizens and beating up American citizens were a bunch of foreigners? I want you to think about that for a second. I think Americans would be furious. Black Americans would be furious. White Americans would be furious. Everyone who calls this country home, heritage Americans, would come together in outrage. Or as Black Americans describe ourselves, now that we've delineated, foundational Black Americans would feel the same. America knows itself. Let's have a heart-to-heart conversation. We know us. The federal government knows America. If this were widely known and confirmed, it would be a media storm like we've never seen. People would be calling for resignations for leadership, legal action, and we have some serious reform real quick. Because when it comes to racial tension and national pride and fear of outsiders, America has a long history of reacting loudly and strongly to all of that. And everybody knows what happens when Black Americans and white Americans come together in a common cause. That's exactly why our government and our institution and these wealthy elites have spent so much time and energy keeping us separated and at odds with each other. You can go all the way back to Bacon's Rebellion. This is before this was even a country in 1676, 100 years before we even became a country. You had basically a black and white multiracial group of poor white settlers and poor black people, some slaves, some free, some indentured servants. They were angry with the wealthy white landowners from England and the governor. They were hoarding all the land. They were imposing heavy taxes, and they weren't giving anybody any protection from the raids that were coming from the Indians. You were just basically out there on your own. And what they did was they deliberately tried to divide and rule folk with these tactics. They kept poor people fighting each other instead of the ruling class. And for a brief moment, poor black people and poor white people realized they had more in common with each other than with the elites. And they burned Jamestown to the ground. They directly challenged the colonial authority, and it terrified the ruling class. And what happened next was critical. I want you to listen to me. After Bacon's rebellion was crushed, the colonial elites, they changed strategy. What they end up doing is they figured out ways to harden the racial divisions. They expanded chattel slavery. They gave poor white people a few more legal rights and legal advantages over black people to try to break the alliance. You understand? They wrote laws to make whiteness a privilege. And in other words, modern American racial hierarchy was built as a direct response to poor black people and poor white people coming together. And that's why historians often say race in America was constructed to prevent class unity. And that fear never went away. Now you can fast forward to the civil rights movement and see the same pattern repeat. The moment major civil rights leaders pivoted from race alone to unity across all Americans, they got removed from the board. We just had Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday. By his final year of life in 1968, King had broadened his focus beyond just civil rights. And he began challenging the economic power in the U.S. foreign policy. He launched the Poor People's Campaign. He didn't say poor black people. He didn't say poor white people. He didn't say poor Asians and poor Mexicans. It was the Poor People's Campaign, which explicitly was multiracial: black, white, Latino, Native American, poor people of all backgrounds. The goal was economic justice. It was jobs. It was about wages. It was housing. It was dignity. Dr. King openly said that America had moved from civil rights problem to a class problem. Now, look, you may disagree with that. I know I got some pro-blacks in here. Y'all like, it's always about white. I get it. You can have that. I understand what you're saying. Yeah, we'll talk about that another day. But what you can't refute is that he publicly opposed the Vietnam War, and he called the United States the greatest purveyor of violence in the world. And he tied the military spending abroad to poverty at home. And that alienated him from the White House, corporate media, major donors, and even the civil rights allies. This man was trying to build cross-racial working class unity. And guess what ended up happening? The man went to Memphis to support the sanitation workers when he was assassinated on April 4th, 1968, while preparing for the Poor People's March. And there's no proof. There's nothing evidence showing that he was killed because of the Poor People's Campaign or his anti-war stance. But those positions dramatically increased the hostility towards him and the surveillance on him and his isolation from power. You see? In other words, when he began to say we're going to unite across racial lines, he became more dangerous. And the same thing happens with Malcolm X. He was assassinated on February 21st, 1965, after his thinking evolved from this rigid racial separatism. He broke with the Nation of Islam. He rejected strict racial divisions, and he began to distance himself from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I know some of y'all might say that was a mistake. I get it. I know we got some pro-blacks on that side. Okay, but he began to travel abroad. That included Mecca, and Malcolm began to frame Black oppression as a human right issue, not just as a civil right. And he spoke about unity among oppressed people of the world, poor people. And so he softened his language. He stopped calling white folk devils. He stopped it, right? Man, boy, I'm telling you. You see what I'm saying? He stopped calling white folks. He softened his language. He started creating some cross-racial alliances. He focused more on system over skin color. And guess what happened? He was assassinated. Some say the Nation of Islam, some members of the Nation of Islam, the U.S. government, and they said the FBI was heavily surveilled. The bottom line is Malcolm's thinking became broader and less racially rigid, and he became more threatening to his entrenched power. You see what I'm saying? And see, this is the bigger pattern. Across American history, when leaders say stay focused on race, when they can be contained. When they start challenging economic power and class hierarchy, they become dangerous. And when they start building cross-racial unity, that threat level skyrockets. So you see a pattern in Bacon's Rebellion, in Reconstruction coalitions, populist movements, King's Poor People Campaign, and Malcolm X's final years. So the instinct here is right. It's not just race that triggers repression. It's unity across race combined with economic political change. Now, think about the reaction. Okay? Think about it. We got people out here beating up Americans. All right? We know our xenophobia. We know our racism. And come to find out, these people are not even, they're foreigners. You understand? We know that. We know how racist we are. Black folks. Look, let me talk. All the foundational Black Americans, come to the front of the room. I'm about to tell a secret. I want all my FBA, type FBA in the chat room. Brothers, sisters, come on in here. We know that we can be just as prejudiced and bigoted as most of the most redneck, racist white folk that you've ever met. I'm telling the truth. You can't help but absorb the mindset in a society where racism and prejudice are practiced and embedded in the culture. Now, think about the reaction you would have if you find out that these agents from outside of America, people who are not from here, are the ones beating up and unaliving and brutalizing Americans. Let's not even worry about the white folks. The Black folks alone. I can imagine all the Ebonic sounding racial epithets that will be coming out your mouths after you leave church on Sunday when you find this out. You understand? White folk, you know you're racist. You know it. You know the Chinese Exclusion Act, the Jim Crow, you send all them foreigners home, right? We know that. And Black folks know I'm telling y'all the truth too. We don't like Africans. We don't like Caribbeans. We don't like Mexicans. We don't like whites. We don't like nobody. And let's be honest. Okay? Let's not hold back. Let's tell the truth. Okay? We got just as many jokes about white folk, Mexicans, Asians, and anybody else that they have. We might not share them openly like they do. Right? Except maybe in jest. That's why we have all these great comedians. They do an excellent job at telling how we really feel. Right? I'm telling you the truth. Okay? But bottom line is this. Now you know. Okay? Now you know. What are you going to do about it? Again, everybody knows what happens when Black Americans and white Americans come together on a common cause. Okay, that's exactly why so much effort has been spent to keep us divided. Now this is where we are. Hell, I even believe the Latinos, the Tejanos, and the Chicanos, who have deep roots and heritage in this country, would stand with that demand. We might, we might not always agree. Y'all got that LULAC thing, and you're real racist, right? But I think we can come together on the fact that we don't want foreigners up here beating us up, pulling us over, creating this climate of fear. See, I believe what we're not going to do is sit back quietly while people who don't respect this country exercise unchecked power over the people who built it. And based on everything you've just heard in this part of the podcast, now you know. Now you know the breakdown. Now you know the numbers. Now you know who ICE and DHS have hired and who is patrolling the streets of the United States wearing masks and hiding their identities. And from here, you can make your own determination how you feel. I've done enough. You understand? So when the federal agents show up wearing masks and concealing their identities because they know the optics would be even worse if they could see, we could see, it makes sense why they're hiding their identities now, right? It's already bad enough that people hear the accents and feel like these agents don't sound like a traditional domestic law enforcement officer. Okay, but see, at that point, once Americans, able to confirm just by looking at them that these folk are foreign born, first generation, whatever, then the cover's blown. You see, the cover's blown. Now, let's continue. Now let's get down to what I want to really get down to. Hit the number 1 button. Now, are y'all still with me? Are you bored? Are you bored? I hope you're not bored. I have something really exciting I want to discuss with you all. And now that I've baited you all in, you learn something and you're going to really learn something. Somebody type really learn. Come on in. Let's talk about an open republic and the risk it always carries. Okay, so now you understand who's enforcing the law and how quickly that enforcement arm has grown and what kind of power it's been given. But see, here's a bigger question we have to ask. Okay, it's one that goes beyond immigration, beyond ICE, and beyond this movement. What kind of country is the United States really? What America's not just a nation, it's a republic, and it's an open one. It's a system built on laws, not rulers. We don't have kings. Somebody type no kings in the chat room. We have a society where citizens have rights, where movement is free, where opportunity exists, and where power is supposed to be limited by the Constitution. And that openness is what makes America strong. It's what allowed people from all over the world to come here and build lives and contribute. But the same openness also carries a risk that most people don't like to talk about. See, an open republic assumes something very important. Shout out to Urban Eagle. It assumes that people entrusted with authority believe in the system they're enforcing. It assumes shared civic values. It shared respect for law, shared understanding of restraint, of human dignity and accountability. The system works when people hold power, when they see themselves as servants of the republic and not rulers over it. But history shows us that open societies can be exploited in the same way. It happens over and over again. And sometimes the most technical, qualified person to do the job doesn't share your culture. They don't share your values or loyalty of the society that they're serving. Somebody type H-1 visa. And see, when you give that person the reins of power, especially over enforcement power, you don't always see the consequences right away. But by the time you do, the damage is already done. And see, this isn't a new problem. It's not even unique to America. In fact, we've seen this movie before. We've seen it play out a much larger stage over centuries by another republic that grew into a global power. And it opened itself up to the world, and it eventually lost control of who wielded authority. And that republic was Rome. Yes, I said Rome. We're about to talk about Rome. We're going to talk about Rome, not current Rome, ancient Rome. So go ahead and run away if you want to. But see, here's the thing. The reason that Rome matters is because it's not because of the ancient ruins. It's not because of the history books. It's because the United States now occupies the same position Rome once did. The dominant power of its age, an open society, a republic turned empire, struggling to balance expansion, security, and internal cohesion. And to understand where we're headed, you have to understand how the story ended and why. Now, the first thing is Rome was born in blood. And so when we talk about the legend of Rome, we have to start with how Romans themselves believe their civilizations began. And so according to Roman tradition, Rome was founded before the Common Era, okay, before year 0, BCE. Most people think it's before Christ. It means before the Common Era, 753, okay? 753 before the Common Era by twin brothers. Who knows the name of the twin brothers who founded Rome? Romulus and Remus. And the story goes that they were abandoned as infants, they were rescued, and they were suckled by a she-wolf and then raised to become warriors. And from the very beginning, the myth centers violence, survival, and dominance. And it doesn't end there. As the legend tells it, Romulus and Remus eventually turned on each other, brothers fighting brother. And there was a dispute over power and territory. And it led Romulus to kill his own brother. And so Rome's founding in myth is not a story of cooperation or peaceful compromise. It's a story of brother killing brother. It's a story of blood. It's a story of conquest and absolute authority and power taken, not shared. Okay, and so that's not the end of the myth. Now let's couple that with a story called the rape of the Sabine women. And I know that's a rough word to hear. We'll say grape because I don't want YouTube to, demonetize my channel. I said grape. Somebody type grape in the chat room. All right, but this is the Roman tradition. Okay, so the earliest men of Rome they weren't viewed as respectable men. These were scumbags. All right, they weren't established. Okay, they were horrible people. Rome basically began as a rough settlement of runaways and exiles and escaped slaves and people who owed other people money, just a bunch of criminals and mercenaries, right? These are people who fled their communities, right? Or been pushed out of them. It would be like the modern day equivalent of a new town of mostly men who were pushed out or ran away from society because they failed at life. Not refugees fleeing war with families or institutions behind them, but just a bunch of single men with no roots, no accountability. They got back child support. They can't get a driver's license, no job. This is who we're dealing with. This is Rome, okay? This is Rome. And so Rome had some neighbors, right? And the neighbors like, man, those guys are violent. They're predators. I mean, we got predators. They're horrible. They like pirates and warlords and drug traffickers. It's just not legitimate society. Okay, I want you to think of a mix of gang members, gangsters, street crews, right? They couldn't survive in a structured society. They're failed militia dudes from like Utah somewhere, a bunch of mercenaries from Ukraine, and moving from one fight to the next, just conflict after conflict, career criminals, all sort of stuff, scamming, hustlers, murderers, robbers, carjackers, car thieves, everything, hustlers, everything's bad. It's just bad, right? Just bad. No allegiance, right? Nothing. Just horrible people. Okay. No family, no church, just lawlessness over there in Rome. Just horrible, right? And so again, Rome was not respected. I mean, people were like, "Nah, keep them over there. They out there pooping outside, peeing around the side of the house. They wear the same clothes every day. They're horrible." This is what people thought about Rome, the Romans. And look, the Romans admitted, this is us. Matter of fact, Rome at that time had an asylum policy. Look, you want to come to our town? We ain't worried about what you did, baby. The slate is clean. Just come through. All right. Somebody say, take me through there. They just take me through there. This is Rome, man. Just horrible. Right? And now imagine this. It's just a bunch of dudes over there. Okay. If you were unwanted, you could go to Rome. And there's a bunch of dudes, but nobody wanted to give them their daughters. Would you send your daughter over there with that? They didn't even have any alliances with it. Nobody even wanted to be their friend. We don't want to have your back, sir. You all are nasty. Okay. And so what was their solution? It was violence. Okay. So at some point, Rome didn't civilize these men first and then build power. Rome built power with them the way they are, and later wrapped that power in law and architect and myth. So when historians say Rome began with runaways and exiles and criminals and mercenaries, and you understand that modern equivalent, right? These men were horrible. But here's the thing. So what happened? What happened was they needed some women over there. All right. And so they tried to talk up on some women. And, the neighbors was like, no, we're not sending our daughters over there. So there was a group of people called the Sabines. Romulus, who was the last brother alive, he invited the Sabines and other neighboring peoples to this religious fest. Yeah, we're chilling out now. We're going to have some cheese and grapes and a little wine. Y'all are welcome to come through. Yeah, bring your daughters, bring your wives, bring your daughters. It's going to be a great time. Bring your nieces. It's going to be cool. Just come on over and we'll chill. We got some camel racing and we'll have some tiger fights. It'll be a great time. Just come on through. Okay, this is the myth. This is the myth of Rome. So basically, they invited the Sabines over, the neighboring people, for this religious festival. We're going to talk to Zeus or something like that. And, he's a buddy of mine. I got him on speed dial. And so these people came. They came and they brought their women. They brought the children. They thought they were going to attend these peaceful event. It was all good, man. It was chilling for a minute. Like, yeah, y'all got good music over here. Maybe we had y'all bad. We didn't know who you really were. And then all of a sudden, on the signal, all the men from Rome just snatched up all the women. They just took them all. They start stabbing men. All right. They got them. They got the dudes up. They stabbed the dudes and ran them away, snatched women, old women, young women, all of them got snatched up, man. It was horrible. And what happened next? None of it was consensual. None of it at all. It was a mass abduction followed by violence. Okay? But any violence that can happen to a woman happened. Okay? And then the Sabine men, the daddies and the fathers and the brothers and the husbands, they got unalived, or the rest of them got ran off. And the women were taken back to these Roman households and forced into everything that would happen behind closed doors. Okay? Family friendly. All right? Now, the Roman historians later, they tried to soften the language, but the underlying reality is unavoidable. This was sexual violence used as a state building policy. And so here's what happened. This is these people's history. This is what you got to understand. We talk about empire. Somebody type empire in the chat room. It's a lesson to be learned now. I want you to listen now. And so what ends up happening, that's not the end of the story. So the story continues that the Sabine men, they got themselves together. You know, they eventually came back. They wanted to reclaim their daughters and wives and girlfriends and nieces and whatnot. But by the time the fight resumed, the women were pregnant. Some of them had given birth. I mean, what you gonna do at this point? You pregnant, these are your fathers. These are your quote unquote husbands, right? So the women stepped in between their fathers and the men in their life, and they basically had formed in the opposing party. They were about to kill each other. And the women pleaded with their fathers and their brothers not to destroy the lives of the children they just had or kill the men, you know, who are now the fathers of those children. So they made peace. That's how peace was made. But see, it's critical to understand that peace represents, what does this represent? This is not forgiveness in a modern sense. It was acceptance under duress, shaped by biology and survival. If the men sat up here and killed themselves, who's gonna protect us and these children? You see? That's it. So the Sabines didn't suddenly respect Rome. They made peace because the damage was already done. So this story whether it's fully literal or partly symbolic, it was embraced by Romans themselves. They didn't hide it. They told it proudly, and it explained who they believed they were. It tells us that Rome was born not from mutual agreement or shared values, but from force, from deception, from sexual violence, the killing of rival men, the absorption of conquered people through domination. These early Romans were perceived by others as dangerous, as aggressive, as unfit for normal social trust. And instead of changing that reputation, Rome leaned on it. They leaned with it, rocked with it, leaned with it, rocked with it. That was part of who they were. And that mindset carried forward into Roman expansion. Rome didn't conquer through fair negotiation. It conquered through fear and military and discipline and annihilation and resistance. Entire cultures were absorbed, enslaved, and erased. And Rome justified it by saying, this is how civilization is built. Now, why does this matter? The point of telling that story, honestly, is not to demonize Rome or the Roman people. Shout out to all the Italian people who are checking this broadcast out. Shout out to everybody who's watching broadcast. I appreciate you guys hanging with me. But again, I want you to understand that great empires begin in blood and conquest and brutality. And the culture formed at the beginning does not disappear just because institutions later become more refined. So Rome's neighbors never forgot what Rome was at its birth. Those memories lived on for generations. And when Rome later began relying on outsiders, somebody type foreigners in the chat room, when Rome later began leaning and relying on outsiders to enforce power, those long memories mattered. Rome wasn't misunderstood. Rome was remembered. And history shows that when power slips into the hands of those who never truly belonged to or believed in the founding principles of a republic, the consequences are never accidental, they're inevitable. All right, so like Rome, let's bring it all home. You guys still with me? Let's bring this home. Who knows where I'm going on this? I know the smart people are catching up. Look here. The United States is a republic, and it grew out of blood and bone and steel and conquest. Can we agree on that? Our country was founded through slaughter. We slaughtered the Native Americans. All black people, you are not absolved. Black people were right there with the white man. We were enslaved in chains, right there with the fighting along. Side of white folk. We killed white folk. We killed Native Americans. We killed everybody. We right there with it. Don't run from this. Stop trying to wash your head. Sometimes black people are like white women. We like to just, it's the white man's fault. No, we were right there with them and we were proud of it. Black Americans fought and died just so we could fight in the war for America. We helped slaughter the indigenous people. What do you think the Buffalo Soldiers were? We fought so hard they call us Buffalo out of a term of respect. We slaughtered the indigenous people. We called them savages. We took their land, all Americans. We went to war with them. We made treaties. We broke those treaties. And of course, we know the history of slavery. Rome had slaves too. Enslavement was common in the ancient world. Hell, it's common now in some parts of Africa and the Middle East. But either way, enslavement, domination, hierarchy, that's baked into the economy of what we got going on in this world. Why? Whether every detail of Rome's founding and legend is historically true is beside the point. The only thing that matters is that this is the story that Romans told themselves. This is who they are. This is their national lore. And national lore shapes national mentality. Rome saw itself as a warrior civilization. These were not people who believed in equal negotiation with outsiders. They believed in conquest. They believed in hierarchy. They believed that strength made right, and they acted on those beliefs. Rome didn't dominate Europe, North Africa, and many parts of the Middle East through diplomacy. They didn't talk nice. They said, we're going to take that goddamn land if you don't give it to us because you can't defend it like we can. Greenland. Screw you, Denmark. And just like America is doing right now, Rome did it through the sword and the shield. Rome destroyed entire cities. Populations were enslaved. Rebellions were crushed with mass executions. Carthage, we talk about Carthage in North Africa. It wasn't just defeated. It was literally annihilated. It's like a nuclear bomb dropped on it. Okay? That's what Carthage, that was our enemy, or that was Rome's enemy. In Judea, Roman suppression of revolts, it's just mass death and exile and destruction of Jerusalem. These weren't accidents, this was policy. And so over centuries, Rome grew into the most powerful empire in the Western world. The biggest empire anybody ever seen. Rome wasn't just a military, it was a system built on law, citizenship. They had roads going all the way up to England. Some of these roads are still available to see. You had cities, you had a highly disciplined army. It was at its height, being Roman meant clear loyalty, it meant allegiance, it meant status, okay? And Romans' identity was tied to duty and honor and control. Now, the Western Roman Empire lasted to about 27 BCE, which means before the Common Era, when the last emperor, whose name was Augustus, the first emperor was Augustus, and 476 CE is when the last emperor, Romulus Augustulus, he was removed from power. It was 500 years, more or less. All right, now the Eastern Roman Empire is something different, okay? They call it the Byzantine Empire. It survived a whole lot longer. Matter of fact, it lasted right up until Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492, I think. It lasted to 1453 CE, okay, which is in the Common Era. And so, and when Constantinople fell to the Ottomans, it was the end of the Eastern Roman Empire. We're not dealing with that. We just focus on the Western Roman Empire because I know there's some history buffs in here. You forgot the Eastern Roman Empire. Shut up. All right. But the bottom line is, from the 3rd century onward, the Western Roman Empire began facing some serious internal issues. It had economic decline. It had political instability. It had corruption, right? It had constant military pressures on the border. Does this sound familiar? Right? And at the same time, Rome no longer had enough citizens willing to get their fat asses up and join the military. I'm sorry, did that come out of my, I didn't mean to say that. I apologize. They were too busy playing video games, right? And Call of Duty to meet the Call of Duty. Okay? Never mind. Basically, they had grown comfortable and wealthy, and there was a lot less patriotic. Okay? Right? So they had a manpower crisis. Right? And Rome began recruiting foreigners. People from conquered or neighboring territories to serve in the army. Many of them, these recruits, they came from the Germanic tribes, and the Goths, the Vandals, the Franks. These people were allowed to rise up through the ranks, not just soldiers, but they became officers and high-ranking military men, right? And they were not considered foreigners in the modern sense of tourist or immigrant. They were conquered and subjugated people, folded into the Roman system out of necessity. These people whose families and tribes had been slaughtered by Rome, we had taken their land, forced them off their goddamn land, and took it from them. Like they were gonna forget that. These people had lasting trauma, generational trauma. Look, over time, entire units of the Roman army was made up of these foreigners, these foreign-born Roman soldiers, these naturalized Romans. Okay? These naturalized Romans. And their loyalty was to their commanders and to their tribes and to their own survival, not Rome itself. And see, this is where the term the Romans you call barbarian comes in. Okay, so let's say it like this: you had these barbarians, and then you had these heritage Romans citizens. Okay, you had the barbarians, and you had the foundational Roman citizens. You understand what I'm trying to say? Mm-hmm. Anyone outside of Roman culture and language was considered a barbarian. Okay, they weren't heritage Romans, and they weren't foundational citizens either. They weren't foundational Romans. And so the irony is that by the final centuries of the Western Empire, many of the men defending Rome were the very people who they once labeled barbarians. And eventually those same people turned against Rome. Not all at once, not always violently, okay? But through settlement and pressure and political takeover, like they might embezzle a couple of million Roman dollars or whatever, and go up to, their little town, like, yeah, we're gonna get all this money and we're gonna send it back to our own little territory over in Somalia or something like that. Just hypothetically, Somalia, we might just take this money from here, from Roman people, and we're gonna send it to Somalia. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna, go and sell a little Roman age cocaine here, and then we're gonna send it back home and build us a house in Jamaica or something like that. You know what I'm talking about? We're gonna work with the last of these Carthaginians, and we're gonna sell, we're gonna get some human trafficking going up here to Rome. You know what I'm talking about? We're gonna do that. That's what we're gonna do. All right, so that's what the barbarians were doing to Rome. I'm sorry, I apologize. I apologize, you guys. Oh man, but anyway, yeah. So, so the Romans, they knew something was up, but they couldn't see it coming. But nevertheless, by 1410, okay, the city of Rome was sacked by the Visigoths, led by a dude named Alaric. He's his former Roman military leader. He learned all that. He's a barbarian. They just, the same people that they did wrong. He made him a military. He ended up coming back and sacking Rome. All right. And so then about 20 some years later, or should I say not 20 some years later, in 476, a Germanic military commander, I can't say his name, Odoacer, I butchered it, Odacia, I'm gonna just call him O-Dog. O-Dog came through and he disposed the last Rome. He killed off Romulus, the last emperor of Rome. Okay, so Rome did not fall in one dramatic moment. It was hollowed out, right, from within, as control over the military slipped away. And of course, the Eastern Roman Empire, it lasts all the way up to like the middle of 1500. But the Western Roman Empire, the one that we all look like Rome, that's the one, it was out of there. You see what I'm saying? Because Rome's neighbors never forgot. Okay, that's why. See, Rome did not collapse simply because of foreigners. It collapsed because it lost institutional cohesion and internal loyalty. The culture changed. The control over its enforcement arm changed. And once the state can no longer reliably command its own military or its own police force in service of its people, then the empire can't hold on. And again, as I said, Mexico, I mean, Rome never forgot. Okay? All those people that Rome conquered, they carry long memories down there in Mexico. I mean, in the Roman neighbors. They remember the brutality. They remember y'all took them people land. Okay? They heard the stories of conquest from their families and what happened, and they deemed that unfair. They heard the stories of humiliation and bloodshed, even if they got it wrong. Right? I thought we was better than that. I thought we had got over. That's a long time ago. Those stories were passed down from generations and preserved in oral traditions. Yeah, I remember that them Romans kicked our ass like 300 years ago, man. They killed your great-great-great-great-great-granddaddy and took your land. That's your land over there. This stuff became part of their collective identity. Even when Rome claimed it brought order and civilization, those on the receiving end remembered the sword. And so when Rome later fell at the hands of people it once dominated, that history mattered. Rome didn't just rule an empire, it ruled over people who remembered exactly how Rome treated them. Look, that's not moral judgment, that's historical reality. Now, this is where Rome stopped being about ancient history and start being a warning. Are y'all listening to me? Are y'all still in here? I probably done lost most of y'all. Hit the number 1, but make sure you subscribe to the channel if you hadn't already, man. Look, this is where it matters. Okay, this is why we went back to Rome. All right. It's a warning. Rome didn't fall simply because it allowed foreigners into the empire. That explanation is just lazy and incomplete. Rome fell because over time, that republic, like this republic, lost control over who held the power to enforce the laws. And the Western Roman Empire outsourced its military, okay, its strength. It did it out of necessity. It wasn't strategy. It placed weapons in the hands and authority in the hands and legitimacy in the hands of people who came from a different culture, who weren't loyal to Rome, who had other places to go. They had dual citizenship. Why would I stay here? I can just go when times get hard. They weren't loyal to Roman citizenship or Roman civil life. And once that shifted, right? Once that shift happened, Rome no longer truly governed itself. Shout out to Red Sigma. It merely occupied its own territory. And see, that's the pattern that should make all of you Americans who are listening to this broadcast pause. When government begins to rely heavily on enforcement agents who are culturally disconnected from the population they police, the relationship between the state and its citizens begins to change. When those agents, those ICE agents, don't share the historical relationship to the Constitution and the same civic traditions or the same understanding of restraint and accountability, enforcement stops feeling familiar. That's why you have white folk getting shot in Minnesota. Okay? When we allow those agents to operate with masks on, with wide discretion, and what seems to be very limited oversight, using these aggressive tactics, then that distance grows even wider. Law enforcement stopped looking like public service and they start looking like an occupation. Tell me I'm lying. See, Rome's problem wasn't diversity. Rome, people of Rome, when you look at some of those old statues, they were brown as me. Remember, this is the Mediterranean. None of those people look like light, bright white folk that you see in some of the palest parts of Scandinavia. They call those people barbarians. Those were the barbarians. Those were the savages. Matter of fact, a Roman general remarked about what we call the English. He said these people are incapable of redemption. They're not smart. They can't be taught. This is what he thought about what was, or what we call right now white Northern Europeans. This is what the Romans thought about them. Keep in mind, Romans were brown people. They were olive complected. Let me say olive complected, right? They were Mediterranean culture, just that's something for another conversation. But the bottom line is diversity wasn't an issue because Rome ruled over many people throughout centuries. They even had control over Africa, Egypt. Rome's problem was institutional drift, the slow replacement of citizen soldiers who were accountable to the public and tied to the fate of the state. And they replaced them with armed enforcers whose loyalty ran upward through command structures rather than outward towards the people they governed. And once Rome crossed that line, it couldn't undo it. See, authority became detached from consent and power and became something imposed rather than shared. And see, that's why this matters right now. When federal enforcement expands rapidly, like we saw happen with ICE, they basically doubled in size. You start recruiting aggressively, right? And then these same people start operating deep inside our country, and these people are concealing their identity. And these people who are culturally detached from American communities. History tells us exactly where that road leads. It's not an immediate collapse, but growing fear, rising resistance, loss of legitimacy. That's why you see people not listening to ICE. This is law. These are federal law enforcement. You got people not even wanting to listen to the law enforcement. Somebody type back the blue. Where all the back the blue people at right now? Where are y'all at? Shout out to all the back the blue people. Where y'all at? Bottom line, what you see happening is people stop trusting the system. They stop seeing enforcement as protection. And once that trust is gone, force alone is not going to replace it. And so Rome, which is a republic like the United States, it teaches us a simple but uncomfortable truth. A state does not survive based on how much force it can project, but on who holds that force and why. And once the republic no longer recognizes itself in the people enforcing the law, or believes those enforcers respect the people they police, the foundation begins to crack. And that's what you see happening now. I mean, it's been happening in the Black community. That's why Black people have this relationship that we do with law enforcement. Again, it doesn't happen all at once, but if Black people are the canary in the coal mine, look at it. It happens slowly, it happens quietly, but it happens. And see, that's not ancient history. That's a warning written in blood, stone, and time. Now, I want to take the opportunity to thank everybody who's contributed to the Super Chat, the Cash App, and the PayPal. I appreciate you guys. If you learned something, let me know. If you learned something, let me know. I hope you did learn something. I thought this was a good broadcast. I appreciate what I'm doing. I want to give a big shout out to the people who contributed to the Cash App. I know this is not a sexy conversation. I know you all probably wanted me to talk about something else. You probably want me to talk about some of this hot mess that's going on in the world and YouTube, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to cheapen my time. Shout out to Mr. Turner. Thank you so much for the $5 Cash App. I appreciate you, sir. I believe I got another Cash App here. Let me see here. I received $5 from Mr. Turner. Thank you so much. Two $5 from Mr. Thank you for the 10, my friend. And we got 10 super chats. If you learn something, I should earn something. But make sure if you haven't already, please Please hit the subscribe button. I want you guys to hit the subscribe button. I'm marching my way to 100,000 subscribers. If we can make broad, whether you agree with me or not, okay, it doesn't matter. All right. And whether you like the title or not, the fact that you came in here and you learned some real facts about the immigration policies and who's being hired, but more importantly, you learned about Rome, you learned about the founding of Rome, you learned about some dates and some times, things that are easily verifiable. You learned about Bacon's Rebellion, which is American history, and how that relates. You learned about a little bit more about Dr. Martin Luther King. You learned about Malcolm X, and you know, and it's not even Black History Month. Isn't that something? Shout out to me. Shout out to me. All right. And you learn, the most important thing is you learned something, and then we didn't just waste your time filling it up with mess. Okay. But the bottom line is, family, I want to appreciate everybody who contributed to the Cash App, the Super Chat, and the PayPal. We are Black Americans, not African Americans. That is an accurate statement. Shout out to FK, the Peeps, 2095. Thank you for the $2 super sticker. We got $10. We got 10 super chat. Maybe we can get to 15. You don't owe me anything. If you didn't learn anything, I don't earn anything. That's how this works. But if we can get to 15, that'd be cool, man. I'd appreciate that. 15 will be clean. Godson 237, $10 super sticker. Brother Dennis, question: how do FBAs get just in America if the system isn't dismantled? How do FBAs get just in America if the system isn't dismantled? Can we actually get through in policy? Oh, okay. So you're saying, how does America get justice? Well, that's a process, you know, and depending on who operates the reins of justice, you know, that's typically how it works. And what I tell people all the time is that justice is blind. In other words, Black people get justice. We just don't get the benefit of the doubt. Okay. And the justice that Black people get is the justice that everybody should get. But oftentimes people get privilege. Okay. If you look at the FBI statistics, more white people are arrested. More white people are arrested per capita. More white people across the board are arrested. But when it comes to conviction, more Black people, somewhere between getting arrested and being put in jail, more Black people are convicted. More Black people per capita are convicted. So you have to look at those numbers and say, well, gosh, well, what's going on here? And it's not necessarily because white people commit less crimes or white people are found innocent more often. And in fact, Black people, Black men especially, have a higher percentage of vindication after retrials than any other group. So it lets you know that a lot of these men are wrongfully convicted. And what that should tell each and every person is that somewhere between getting arrested and getting convicted, white folk are let go and Black people end up in jail. So again, as I say, Black people get justice, white people get the benefit of the doubt, even when it's wrong. And so that's what has to change. But how do you change a person's perspective? Well, the quickest way to do that, sir, when you get those jury notices, show up. How many of you all have been trying to get out of jury duty for years? If you get a jury summons, I'm sick, I got a wooden leg and a kickstand, I got to pick up my baby, I got bowel issues, I'm gonna be on, you don't want me on the jury passing gas, I'm sick today. You find all these different reasons. And so how can you get tried by people of your jury of your peers, people who understand your perspective, if you know all the people who look like you are getting out of jury duty? Think about it. So start doing your civic work. If you want Black people to get justice, make sure you don't dodge jury duty. And here's another one. Go to law school, become a lawyer. Go to law school, become a judge. Go to law school, or hell, become a congressman. Try to enact some fair laws. Become a police officer. Become a constable. You see, in some states like Texas, you don't even need to be a lawyer to be a justice of the peace. See what I'm saying? So I want you all to think about that. That's how you change the system. And some people will say, well, you got to beat the system up and you got to work on it from the outside. Well, we just going to put another system in anyway. The system is dependent on the people who operate within the system. I mean, every country around this world has a system. Do you want the communist Chinese system of justice? Would you like to try some Mexican justice? How about some African justice? You think that'll work out? I think honestly we have the best judicial system in the world. Do you remember what happened? I mean, you go to some of these places, you got a one-day trial. You got 2 hours to prepare for a 1 hour trial, and you just got to. You don't even have time to talk to a lawyer. Do you want that sort of system? Because I mean, there's plenty of systems out there. I think we have a long system. A person in the United States can unalive somebody, and then get an appeal after an appeal after an appeal to make sure they're right. And sometimes it works. So I think we have a great judicial system, but it's dependent on the people who are operating within the judicial system. Great question, Godson. Thank you so much. So yeah, do your civic duty. Shout out to Storyteller. Thank you for the $5 sticker. Black Marvel 25 for your time and for your malfunctioning white people. White people, yeah, my white people are malfunctioning. Y'all got to do better. Y'all out there cutting up. Y'all need to calm down. But no, not for real, man. I salute white folk for well-meaning white people who put themselves between what they perceive to be an unjust enforcement of immigration law. I salute you. And it's always been white people who laid their lives and their wealth on the line, whether we're talking about the Underground Railroad, those conductors, those people, and the Fugitive Slave Act. White people were getting put in jail. They were getting their property taken. You know, you got people literally gave their life, you know, fighting for the freedom of black people, whether we're talking about the civil rights movement. So shout out to them. You know, I mean, I'm not going to sit up here and put all white folk in the same point. Hell, I told you my favorite, most racist president ever is Harry S. Truman. I mean, he just racist as hell. Just racist as hell. But he signed that executive order and integrated the U.S. military. Damn, right? So anyway, you know, let's try to give each other a little bit of grace. And there's just some people that are unredeemable, but I think as Americans, once you realize we're pretty much all we got and nobody likes us, black folk, white folk, you realize we probably need to come together. Y'all not taking your butts back to Europe. They don't like you over there. You go visit, they'll take your money, but you know, they want you back across the pond. Shout out to Cosmin. Yeah, it's your fault telling us all these true historic events and all your willingness to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but I'm gonna keep telling you. I'm gonna make you uncomfortable out here. All right, I enjoy it. I enjoy what I'm doing. I love telling the truth. I love making people uncomfortable with facts. We got 12 super chats. Are we gonna get to 15? Hell, if we can get to 13, that'll be great. But we got 12 super chats so far. That's 2 more since when I started. Thank you so much. We got 30. If you learned something, you didn't learn anything, don't pay me anything. And shout out to everybody on the rebroadcast. Appreciate you guys. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Has everybody hit the subscribe button? I need you guys to do that. You don't have to give me any money, but make sure you hit the subscribe button. Let me see here. We got Birthright Citizen, great book by Martha S. Jones. Okay, cool. That's what I'm talking about. No problem. I'm gonna have to check that out. Always always ready to learn something. Thank you, Urban Eagle. And L. Jackson, new member. Welcome to the membership family. Thank you. And then Red Sigma, thank you for the $5 history buff. Appreciate you. Also, it's Sure Guy 775699, the 999 super sticker. And Omara 13EY, thank you so much. I appreciate you. And we got us 12 super stickers. Good looking out, family. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hit the number 1 button. Hit the number 1 button. Let me know you can hear me clearly. We're going to wrap this thing up like a Christmas gift, baby, on Christmas Eve. Hallelujah. Somebody said I sound like a Baptist preacher. I can if I need to. Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Oh, man, I've had too much fun, man. Did you guys enjoy it? Did I sneak in? You didn't know I was going to take you to Rome in this one. I snuck this one in real good. I'm proud of me. Boy, I don't want to be a history teacher, but if I was, everybody would join my class. We'd be like, oh my God, the syllabus would be awesome. They would be like, oh, this guy's love talk. It's just such an interesting take on things. Man, that's just amazing, you know. And I've always been like that. When I was at Tulane in law school, I remember, and I'm not going to get too far, but you know, speaking of law school, if you've been involved in a car accident, since you all are not paying me any money, I need you to understand I need to keep my day job. I'm not going to let you all do me like you did Dr. Umar Johnson. This is not going to happen. Okay. And that other fellow with all them degrees from the College of Haiti, I'm not going to let any of y'all do me like I'm going to keep my day job. You understand me? I'm going to keep my day job. Okay, you will not do me like you did. What's his name? Ricky. What's the man's name? Y'all put him out of business. Y'all went and shout out to Torian Jones. I don't know what's his name. Okay, but apparently he has like 7 degrees from Haiti. Okay, and I'm like, sir, do you speak French Creole? I didn't know. I don't get in people's business. Okay, I might say some, but you know, Uncle D ain't messy. But I'll be looking like, damn, that's what's going on in YouTube. O'Shea Jackson and oh my God, it's messy over there. O'Shea and Anton Daniels and everybody, they falling out. I don't fall out with nobody. I don't get in nobody's business. I step mind my business. We over here talking about Rome. We not talking about all that stuff. We ain't talking about side chicks or none of that. I ain't getting in none of that. Okay, I mind my business. That's what I'm gonna keep doing too. I'm gonna mind. I ain't saying nothing. Okay. But I watch. I'll be looking like, damn, that's what they doing over there in YouTube. That's amazing. Really? How do they have the time and energy for that? How do y'all make time for all that? That's crazy. I got a job. I got kids. I got a wife, man. You kidding me? I gotta sit there and I'm sitting here typing and trying to put stuff together. And I'm next time, damn, really? It's amazing. I don't live this exciting. I live a very unexciting life. You hear me? The most exciting thing I get is my wife bring me some tea with my little teacup. My little cat buddy is, I mean, you know, that's what I do. That's what I do. But anyway, let me get back to what I'm doing. So look, I need to keep my day job. So if you've been involved in a motor vehicle accident, I'm an excellent lawyer. Those of you all who know, I've been nominated to, well, actually, I've been inducted into the Southern University Hall of Fame, a law school Hall of Fame. That's my first law school. My second law school was Tulane. But what I was going to say before I got sidetracked, before I said call me at 713-229-0770, is when I was at Tulane, I remember we were talking about the full faith and credit clause of the United States Constitution. When I was at Tulane, I was working on an LLM, which is a master's degree in law, which allows you to teach. Okay, most people just get a JD, they pass the bar. I had done that, but some white folks said, you want them smart in words. We want you to come on down and join our LLM program. And the thing about it is some of my law professors couldn't get into the Tulane law school LLM program. And I got invited and went right after law school, which is damn near unheard of. You know, and of course I got a perfect score on the bar examination. So, you know, I got that out the way and I'm like, all right, I'll do the stupid law school thing. Yeah, I did. I got a perfect score on the bar examination. Isn't that amazing? Back in 2000, I was scared to death. I didn't want to fail. Shit, I didn't want to, I ain't gonna be out here failing. But anyway, so this after we finished having a conversation, it was a water rights class, and this was a visiting professor who was working at the EPA in DC. And I'm sure it had been a while since he studied for any bar examination. And right after you finish studying for the bar, everybody will tell you that's the most law you're ever going to know. But nevertheless, he was talking about how, yeah, you know, once you get the judgment, you got to get it certified and approved and whatnot. And I'm like, why don't you just go through the full faith and credit clause of the U.S. Constitution? And he was like, and so the whole class looked at me, and I can see the little pins. Remind you, these are kids from Harvard. They're from Yale. These are these Ivy League kids. I'm sitting here in Tulane in the back, way in the back of my black stuff, like, yeah, why don't you do full faith and credit clause? This is right after I said crazy stuff in that class. I was mad because I didn't want to be there. This is when they had the Columbine stuff, and we were talking about zoning. And I'm like, I don't want to live around y'all either. Y'all be shooting up schools. As I'm saying, it's full of white people, crazy black dudes sitting in the back. But either way, after I brought that idea up, and you know, this is probably halfway through the second semester, and I just didn't give a crap no more. I mean, I didn't care about the damn thing. You know, I was hungry, tired. This pretty little white girl came up to me, and mind you, I'm saying pretty little white girl. I was probably only like 26, and she was probably about 23, 24. beautiful, tall little white girl. She had a little pot skin, or little face, but she was cute. She came up to me and she said, "I really enjoy your take on things. You always are able to point out things that not even the professors can see, and I just really enjoy having you in the class." And I was like, "Oh, thank you very much, little white girl. I appreciate you. Get your little ass away from me unless you got some food to eat. I'm hungry." But anyway, I remember that stuck with me. She probably was trying to flirt with me a little bit because Uncle D was thin and handsome back then. I was like 215 pounds, 6'4". My beautiful, beautiful eyes. I had all my hair. I didn't have this hairline problem. My hair used to come down the hair. Okay, I'm losing hair. But the bottom line, she was a sweet girl, and I think she went to Harvard. And it was just cool, man. It was just cool, man. And I just I've always been able to see things from different angles. And so, because I take in all the information and I see it from all the angles, and, I'm the type of person, I have to learn like everything about something. But once I got it, I got it. And so now I'm starting to see repeating themes and patterns in history. The more I read about history, the more I learn, the more I observe, I see things. Like I'll remember something from 20 or 30 years ago. Yeah, the Sabine women. Yeah, Rome. And so this is how I work. And this is probably what separates me from a lot of people. But either way, family, somebody said she wanted a private study session with the Blizzard King. Man, I was hungry in school. I was hungry. Look, man, I was into all these beautiful women. I didn't give a damn. You hear me? I was hungry every day. Okay, every day I was hungry. I was too hungry to have a girlfriend. And look, I'm telling you, I was very handsome. I look at some pictures of myself when I was young, like, man, you was like model handsome, 6'4". You had to have with running, and exercising and lifting weights and angry, and ladies, no emotional intelligence. I had zero emotional intelligence. Women had to damn near run up and hit me in the face for me to pay attention to them. They had to run up and hit me. Hey, I like you, asshole. Let's go on a date. I'm busy. You see what I mean? This is me. Funny thing is, my oldest son is a lot like I am. He has no emotional intelligence. He said some woman at U of H flirted with him in the cafeteria. I said, "What did she do, son?" "She just kept saying my name, Dad. Dennis. Then I said, "Son, that's probably trying to let her know she liked it. You handsome boy, you handsome young man. You're 18. He's not as tall as I was. He's only like 6'1" or 6'2". I'm like, "You're handsome, son. The women will flirt with you when they like it." He just, and he's like, "All right, Dad, I gotta go." I mean, the way he is, I gotta go back to studying engineering, Dad. I'm like, "Dog, you just missing all the good shit. You're gonna be just like me, just missing all these fine women trying to talk to you because you're young and handsome." Okay, and I was the same way. I was hungry. I didn't care. I didn't just, and a lot of dudes, they go out of their way to try to talk to women. Young dudes are like thirsty dogs. They just go out of their way trying to talk to women, and I just didn't give a damn. I had a dog. My dog's name was Myrtle. I would go jogging with my dog Myrtle, and I just don't. And mind you, keep in mind, I was a biology major. And you don't get a perfect score on the bar examination without studying. You see what I mean? And then you leave the JD program and go right back in and do the LLM program. Mind you, it's a 2-year program. I finished the damn program in 1 year, took every course they offered. So thank you so much, Sigma Rage. Most people offer, they take like 15 hours. I took like 18 hours a semester. And this is the LLM program. You got to get an A. If you don't get A's, you don't pass. So I got A's and everything. This is me, hungry. This is, and my poor son is just like I am. He just as stiff as a board, just engineering. And, I was just biology, and you don't pay attention. I never took a chance to sit back and sniff the roses. I don't think I sniffed the roses until I was about 35. And then here's the crazy part. I'm gonna get back to the broadcast. So I decided it was a good idea. After my divorce, I got divorced way back in, what was that, 2000, I think it was final in 2010 or 2011. I decided to go back to school, right? Because I wanted to be busy and productive with my time. So here's what I did. Yeah, I think it's time for me to go back and finish my degree. And so instead of, I enrolled in the master's degree in biology, biological sciences over here at TSU, one of the local universities, and then decided, oh, well, you know, I finished that in like a year, even though I was supposed to do the thesis. But before I finished, I said, well, you know what, maybe I should work on my PhD at the same time. So I cross-registered and started working on a PhD in environmental molecular toxicology while finishing my master's degree. And that wasn't enough. So I said, well, let me just work on my, I want to get a degree in environmental planning. So I enrolled in the PhD program in environmental planning. I was already enrolled in the PhD program in environmental molecular toxicology. And I was finishing up the master's degree program in biology. Okay, so I'm working, I'm mind you, I'm a dad, I got a full-time law firm. I got 2 kids. I think I was writing a book and had a rap album I was working on, and along with 2 PhDs and a master's degree. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This is who you're dealing with. Okay, so that's where I'm at. So this is why I don't have time to focus on what people are doing in these YouTube streets. I find other things to do. And so anyway, nevertheless, let's get back to the broadcast. Shout out to everybody who contributed to the super chat to Cash App and the PayPal through that diatribe. I appreciate you guys. This is entirely too much fun. I need to get out of here. My God, shout out to Jay Smith. Thank you so much. And thank you, Charles, also. But anyway, family, as we say, and I guess we got a couple of people who, we almost got 15 super chats. That'll be awesome. Let me see. Sigma Rage, appreciate you. D, most grateful for you being willing to speak on behalf of the bros. Yeah, man. Shout out to the brothers, man. But anyway, look, we got 14 super chats. If we get 15, that'll be awesome. But make sure you subscribe to the channel. Here we go. I want to be clear where I stand because there shouldn't be any confusion. I voted for Donald Trump. Okay. I want everybody who knows that I voted for Donald Trump because I voted my interest. All right. And my interest is tied to me being a foundational Black American. And that comes before my interest of every other group. It's not hate. Okay. It's politics. The truth is most Black people voted for Democrat that's just what we do. But the stuff that Kamala Harris, she's already said she's never going to do anything for Black people, right? And here I am. I worked real hard to get my money, and I found that under Democrats, I pay a lot more taxes. So I'm like, I can't keep doing that and running a family, okay? Again, I vote my interest. I'm not going to tell you how to vote. If you are a person who is a school teacher or somebody who's income is tied to a union, you need to vote Democrat. Vote your interests. Okay. If you're a small business owner and you want to pay low taxes, you probably need to vote Republican. Hey, here's the thing. If you don't like either one of these people and you want to send a message, sit on the couch. Vote Green Party. I don't care. We do freedom over here. Okay. We do freedom of information over here. Freedom of information, man. Okay. All right. That's what we do here. All right. You free to be who you are. But the thing is, what I've learned is that, in this country, this is politics. All right. This is how the majority rules in a working, functioning society. Every group votes to protect itself first. And anyone pretending otherwise is lying or naive. I support the enforcement of immigration. I believe unchecked illegal immigration has harmed foundational Black Americans and heritage Americans, okay? Both, or should I say economically, politically, and socially. That belief did not start with Donald Trump, okay? And it doesn't end with him. It's rooted in self-interest and historical analysis. And the hard reality of competition inside a finite system where jobs, wages, housing, and political power are limited, that's the reality. Okay, I'm not required to sacrifice my group's position so others can benefit. I'm not obligated to vote against my own people's economic survival to make someone else feel morally comfortable. Okay, I voted for what benefits me and mine. And I do it again, even right now. And that's not extreme. That's how power is exercised in a republic. Okay? That's just how it is. The Honorable Barbara Jordan, while she was serving as the chair for the U.S. Commission on Immigration Reform in the 1990s, she made it clear that the United States has a right and an obligation to control its borders. It has an obligation to enforce its laws and set immigration levels in the national interest. And her argument is not racial. She was a black woman from Texas who went to TSU, who is a HBCU, and she was a Democrat under a Democratic administration. You see, she warned us about illegal immigration and how it undermines the rule of law and creates an employment magnet that drives down wages and job opportunities for Americans because it takes away the leverage we have. And in America, the workers with the least leverage are overwhelmingly going to be low skill, low wage workers. And many of them are going to be foundational Black Americans without college degrees. And so that conclusion is not an opinion. It's the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, and it has said it directly. Hell, it's in a briefing on the impact of illegal immigration on wages and employment opportunities of Black voters. And that commission explained that a large flow of illegals and low-skilled labor place a downward pressure on wages. Okay? Now, who's that affect? Mostly Black Americans, especially Black men. This is where the fiercest competition is. This is how my people get squeezed first. My brother just said, I appreciate you for looking out for the brothers. Well, this is what I'm doing. Black workers lose the most. Dr. Claude Anderson. This man made an argument. He's a jewel in the Black community. Many of you all don't know who he is. He said explicitly for decades, okay, not as a government bureaucrat, but as a Black policy advocate focused on group economics. He is consistently warned that unchecked illegal immigration weakens the bargaining power, the wages, and the job prospects of U.S.-born Black Americans. And his position aligns with the same economic mechanisms and identified in the Civil Rights Commission, even if he states it more bluntly and unapologetically. We can go all the way back to Frederick Douglass. In the aftermath of slavery, there was a bunch of powerful interests who wanted to import cheap labor rather than employ free Black people. They were trying to replace us way back then. And so Douglass, he wasn't issuing a modern immigration policy prescription, but his warning about labor competition, it was real, it was narrow, and it was very specific. When cheap labor is imported, Black workers pay the price first. So when I say I support immigration enforcement, even when the execution is ugly and deeply flawed, I'm not speaking from ignorance. I'm not speaking from hatred or confusion. I'm speaking from history. I'm speaking from data. And I'm speaking from my lived reality. Illegal immigration does not hurt everyone equally. It never has. It hits the people at the bottom the hardest. And in this country, that has meant who? It's meant us. It's meant foundational Black American men, specifically without college's degrees. It hits us more than anybody else. Now, here's the thing you have to understand, and something I need you all to understand where I'm coming from. And if we're real with ourselves, and we're keeping it 100, I fully understand that the enforcement of the laws that's going on right now is racially driven. And I'm not going to dance around that. I'll go further than most people are willing to go. It's evil. The way they're doing things. It's unjust. And it's morally wrong. Anytime you got people getting unalived in the street, there's no way you can avoid that. But see, here's the thing. I'm comfortable saying that because I don't need to pretend. I'm not a hero in this situation. I'm not here to justify how the law is being enforced. What's happening is wrong. It's ugly, but it's still lawful. And here's the part people don't want to hear. It serves my interest as a black man. Politics is not about purity. It's not about moral posturing. It's about outcomes. And I'm not obligated to oppose policies that materially benefit me and my people just because the process makes everybody else uncomfortable. I'm not required to vote against my own survival so someone else can feel righteous. I recognize the reality for what it is, and I'm gonna act accordingly now. A lot of people who criticize my position always reach for the same tired script. And I've heard people, I've been looking at the internet all day. You see, they'll say stuff like, the one thing I respect about you Trump supporters is you're okay with anything he does. Epstein, porn stars, felonies, tax cuts, billionaires, tariffs, causing inflation, you know, all of that, right? You heard that, right? That's what some of you all who are listening to me say. That's what you say. And so I want to be clear with you up front. I want you to hear something, because I want you to come in tight. All my left-leaning liberal friends, you're never going to meet somebody as real as me. Let me tell you, I'm not a Trump supporter. As I said earlier, I'm a person who votes my interests. If my interests are aligned with a certain candidate, that's who I'm voting for. I'm a registered Democrat. I voted for Trump twice. But I also vote for some Republicans and some Democrats here and there down ticket. But the bottom line is vote your interests. That's it. That's the whole explanation. I don't vote for personalities. I don't vote for moral role models. Okay? I don't vote for who I want my daughter to marry or my son to look up to, even though I don't have a daughter. I vote for outcomes. And the removal of illegal aliens, along with strict immigration enforcement, irrespective of how brutal it becomes, that serves my interest as a foundational Black American man. And I say that full stop. So when you bring up the Epstein list, here's my honest answer. I don't care. When you talk about bringing up paying off porn stars, I don't care. When you're talking about felony convictions, I don't care. The big beautiful bill is helping big corporations instead of the average American. I don't care. Tariffs, I don't care. As long as they don't hit my bottom line. Inflation, hurting the little man, I don't care. And I know that's the wrong thing to say. I'm supposed to perform concern. Oh, yeah, it's terrible. You know, I know. I'm supposed to pretend like I'm morally tortured by every consequence that doesn't personally affect me. I'm supposed to say, oh, wow, that's terrible. Even when it changes nothing in my life. Look, politics is not about being a good person. It's about power. It's about resources and survival inside a competitive system. I don't have an obligation to suffer so other people can feel morally validated. You act like we didn't know Donald Trump was morally corrupt when we elected him the first time. You act like America suddenly discovered, oh my God, the corruption in 2024. That's childish. This country was founded on blood, theft, conquest, slavery, exclusion. No different than Rome or any other empire that ever mattered. You think a nation built like that produces leaders with clean hands and pure souls? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is not a fairy tale. This is empire. Empires don't select leaders for virtue. And when the majority of Americans voted for Trump, they voted for exactly what we're getting right now. He said what he was going to do. None of this should be a surprise to anybody who's watched him over the past 4 or 5 years. And if you don't like the outcome, then you should have voted differently. And there's nothing you can say about Trump's character, his scandals, or his morality that will move me, because none of that is what I voted for. I voted for my interests. And as long as those interests are being served, the rest of the outrage is just noise. Now, here's what I'm actually concerned about. I'm concerned about empowering people who are not loyal to this country, because we see them all up in the White House and taking over these high positions. I'm concerned about people who harbor resentment toward the United States of America, people who openly dislike and distrust or even hate our great nation, okay? Right? These same people are now being asked to enforce its authority. Because see, here's the part nobody wants to talk about. Once the immediate threat is removed, once the illegal population is reduced to sufficient numbers are gone, the people we empowered to carry out that enforcement, they're not just going to disappear. That power stays, that badge stays, that authority stays, and so do the attitudes. And what happens when people who've grown accustomed to operating without accountability, people who've been allowed to mask their identities and brutalize American citizens, sidestep constitutional norms, and trample on civil liberties? What happens when they're no longer aimed at outsiders, but remain embedded in the system? You see, those people are not going to shed that mindset all of a sudden. They enter government. They run for office. They become mayors. They become city council members. They become prosecutors. They join local police departments. They become teachers, administrators, bureaucrats. And then they have children, and those children integrate fully into the institutions of this country with that same mindset that they get from their parents. And by then, they've already learned something dangerous, that power can be exercised without consequence. That's my concern. Because see, people who become comfortable victimizing others under the color of law, they don't forget how that power feels. They don't unlearn the habits. They don't suddenly develop this reverence for the Constitution they never had to internalize in the first place. They carry that culture forward quietly, incrementally, into every institution they touch. So the real question isn't whether enforcement is legal. It's whether we're planting seeds of a future enforcement class that has no cultural loyalty to restraint, limits, or citizenship itself. Look, history tells us how this ends. Rome learned the hard way. And so have countless empires that outsource authority without thinking through the consequences. God bless you all. I love you. I hope you all appreciate this broadcast. Thank you so much. Shout out to all the men and women in law enforcement. Shout out to all the men and women in the military. I appreciate everybody who spent the time with me today. Thank you so much. Please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the like button, and make sure that you leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you have to say. This is Uncle D, as I always say. I'm out.
Dennis Burley Podcast. Hit the like button, subscribe.